neck. Moon dust still in the folds of my hands. You look up, but your sky is crowded. Tiny screens drowning out the span. Every face glowing in the blue light. Every street buzzing sharp and loud. I float in the gravity of old fights. You laugh like it's just another cloud. Check! Scratched window, porcelain balanced on black. Every wall looked like dust and water. Every border just a nervous crack. Now I'm back and the ground feels fragile. Cracked cups stacked in a kitchen sink. To the brink. From up there. Check. That's right. Paper thin halo. Abused. All right. How can you burn what you are? How can you burn what you are? Check. Yeah, all right, all right. Just your light through a visor reached the home in a sea of black. Up there. All right. Let's see. Hold on one second. I gotta get started. Welcome to the show, everybody. It's Hal Sparks, Mega Worldwide. Like, subscribe, give a thumbs up, support the show, especially the lovely and talented people of the greatest chat room in the history of chat rooms. There they are. Here they go. Streaming on by. Just paying a little visit to you in the middle of the middle. What's up, chat room? That's right. Afternoon sparklers. Yes, please hit the like. It annoys the maggot in your life, and it also helps us with the algorithm. Not to be confused with Aldo Nova or Al Jarreau, who I once saw scatting "We're Not Gonna Take It" after watching me sing with Dee Snider. I mean, let me tell you something. The stacked memories I have, I'll put them up against any memoir that's out there on the market. That's a surreal moment, ladies and gentlemen. When you finish singing "We're Not Gonna Take It" with Dee Snider, you walk off stage, and way down at the end of the hall in the backstage area, all by his lonesome, is Al Jarreau going, "We're not gonna take no, we ain't gonna take," when he thinks he's alone. I'm just saying, it was just me and Al Jarreau in a long hallway, and I just got to hear him dance and sing it into his dressing room. It was, yeah, there you go. Yes. Just love the way Trump took another plane and did not give a shit if his staff could get killed on the Air Force One. Yeah, Klaatu Barada Nikto, thanks for being here. I got to tell you, I've mentioned this multiple times. I talked to our dear friend Caleb from Nerd Halen today about this very thing. Increasingly, I am dug in on the idea that there was no threat. There was no threat to his safety. The CIA has said there was no way they would have reacted the way the Secret Service did to it. So it was all for show. The CIA is going to tell the Secret Service whether there's a credible threat or not. And even if Israel told them that this was happening, the intelligence community would tell Trump, like, nah, that's not a real thing. But just the information alone gives him cover to do whatever the fuck he wants, pretending he's being threatened at all fronts. Now, I come to you, ladies and gentlemen, with lots of obviously, clips to talk about and the usual and the usual unusual that we do here. But on top of that, I come to you an aggravated young man, a man, some would say, yet to reach his prime or wreak his prime, sure, whatever. And operating in a always in new terrain laid out before me is a new horizon every single day where I make of it what I will with new ideological toys to play with. And these days they're everywhere. And there's one particular area where I am particularly annoyed right now that have a lot to do with the economy. Now, part of this came because of a ridiculous video that I subjected myself to by a young lady named Tucker Carlson, and she was doing this video. Let's see if I can find it. It's rather long, and I did not need to watch all of this hornswoggle by any stretch. And it was the title of the video, which is like an hour and a half long, and is Ben Shapiro to America, shut up and eat your goy slop. Okay. The pegging the anti-Semitism meter once again as best he can. And then, of course, I saw a little video that was posted. I think the Daily Beast had it up, or might be our dear friends over at Raw Story who posted this video of Joe Rogan suddenly learning, like in the last 2 days, that Trump was selling early access to his Truth Social posts so that people could make money off of them. And I don't know. All right, God damn it. I don't know how you do this shit for a living every day, have 3-hour fucking conversations about this stuff, and be that far behind on the bigger stories. Like, this isn't, other than you're intentionally avoiding knowing about it because it makes you look like an asshole and you hope nobody brings it up and you just pretend to be surprised. Maybe. And because he's higher than Carl Spackler. First of all, I don't know that Carl Spackler was high. I think he was just kind of a wreck. Right? There might have been long-term damage, but it also might have been sort of a confluence of factors, as it were. But apparently Shane Gillis made Joe Rogan aware of this fact, and they were like, "Man, that's not I don't know if I like that." Somebody around him got to tell him that this doesn't look good. It's so fucking lame and embarrassing to like how do you not know? How does it take you this long to figure this shit out? How do you not know? All right. On top of that, there's just no excuse. If you do this for a living and you don't know that detail, it's bizarre. It's either a choice or you are actively dimming yourself. So also the story that we have sailors jumping off our ships after 250 days at sea because the morale is so low and they've lost sight of when they will be rotated out and all this shit. It's so the stupids. It's just so the stupids. Yeah, let's see if we find this. Yeah. Nope. Okay. So we'll drag that up in a bit, but oh, I know. I have it on my phone. It's aggravating. Okay, so I know I have it in the phone. Yeah, here you go. So we'll send this, go here, and then just copy this. And then I think my phone should paste it. Oh, it's so nice, isn't it? Nope. Okay, that didn't work. Nope, that didn't work. Okay. Copy. And then it should be allow me to share it, one would think. Share this. There you go. Share to my to the mini, not to the MacBook Pro, you cretin. There you go. Send it there. And then maybe I have to share it from here. This is so stupid to have to piggyback this garbage over to there, but we'll give it a try. AirDrop to the Mac and the Mini. Nope. Why are you not allowing me to do that? Okay, maybe it does it here. Copy that. Okay. I'm going to try and transfer it one more time. What are you doing? Get out of here. Okay, let's see if this will do it one more time. Nope. Some big code. That's just silly. Okay, it's going to annoy me. What is this? Marco file. Okay, so I'm just going to have to find the clip itself from the thing. Yeah. This is older than 2 hours ago. Yeah, here it is. This is it. Okay. So apparently, I found it. It starts out with Ari Schaefer, I think that is, sucking an eagle's ass. I guess bonging through an eagle's ass or something like that. And yeah, here, away we go.
Isn't he selling his Truth Social tweets to people and then they can bet on it?
What?
I think, yeah.
You can bet on
it. Again, when was this filmed? When if it wasn't a month ago, I don't know what the fuck.
He's selling access.
Yeah, selling access.
He's selling faster access to his tweets, and then you can bet on it.
Bet on what his tweets
on the markets. Because
wait a minute,
it's literally insider trading.
It's Kashi. You can bet on everything. You can fix.
Yeah.
Wait a minute, is that real?
It's not even the betting part. If it's going to affect the markets, the real markets. I mean, this is what his teleprompter guy got busted for. And what happened here? They put the teleprompter guy on leave, and then go, oh shit, that's a great business model. Why don't we do that?
Get access to a tweet before he makes it, and then you could bet on that tweet. How's that legal?
We'll see.
Wait a minute, what is this? Trump sued over Truth Social advance access sale.
I'm online in the Oval Office.
Who's telling him this is a good idea?
Don, Eric. They have to do a cash grab. You don't think these assholes have any real good ideas or know how to conduct real business, do you?
I feel like I need to be closer to
$100,000 contracts.
Yeah, it's $100,000 you can get his
Yo, hey, you know how crazy that is? $100,000 to get early tweets.
He bet 200 on
That's literally
It
crazy.
must piss you off so much when he tweets.
No, it's not literally crazy. It's actually quite sane. What it is corrupt. It's criminal. Like, there's a lot of logic to it if you're an amoral, immoral, corrupt fuck. There's nothing. It's strategic, but it's wrong. It's not crazy. That's why we can probably set up a law to make it illegal.
It's like
Truth Social's parent company,
a bitch.
Trump Media, announced in July it would offer subscribers.
In July. Well, and Joe, who does this for a living every day, is just finding this out.
To Truth API, who paid up to $100,000 each month. Oh my God, not even just $100,000 a year, each month.
He's raking it
for
in.
early access to market-moving posts from Trump and other people who use the platform.
Market moving.
You imagine you charge $1.2 million a year? He's just on a grab.
Fucking newsflash.
Oh yeah.
And to get that, it's just people who are like,
But who
profit off that?
I just want to be in the meeting where they go, I got an idea.
And everyone looks at each other and is like,
Let's do
should we
it.
tell them no?
They go, look, everyone hates us
100
anyway.
grand.
Fuck it.
I bet it wasn't even Trump. It was probably some weasel who works in the administration.
Who gives a shit? He said yes. And no, it's not. It's fucking Don and Eric. No, and you know what? Fuck you. It is Trump. And I'll tell you why. Because every time there's a situation where some money is being made someplace, either through a contract for helicopters or some deal that goes down, which is in the normal duties of the president to sign off on it, he acts like he should get financially compensated for any of the deals that are made to, acquire military gear, sell arms and that kind of stuff. He wants a sales commission on all of it. So you know what? Fuck you. It was his idea. It was his idea. Because they fire that guy or they put him on administrative leave. And he's like, wait, you can do that? Why don't we just charge people for that? I'm sick of this bad advice bullshit. Especially from people that thought for a while like the sun shined out of his ass and he's the funniest president ever. And you got to be really smart to be that funny, like Joe has said. While, by the way, not getting a joke that Joe Biden told at the expense of Donald Trump, thinking that Joe pretending, like effectively paraphrasing Donald Trump, meant Joe was demented. And then when it was revealed to him by his own producer, no, he's making a joke about something Trump actually said, which of course here, well, shit, it's where are we? It wasn't this one. It's the.
Our army manned the airport. It ran the ramparts. It took over the airports.
Remember that? Remember that shit? That's what Joe was making a joke about. This guy thought we need more airports during the Civil War or during the Revolutionary War. And Joe was making jokes, not just on his show, but amongst his friends. You could tell that he was softballing it up when we covered that, when he did it, that he'd like, do you hear this thing? Like about Biden, thinking we needed more airports or whatever, or we had airports during the Revolutionary War. He said this shit for days. Also, I'd like to point out that Trump says we have airports, I think, 3 times.
Our army manned the airport.
Okay, there's our army manned the airports.
Our army manned the airport. It ran the ramparts. It took over the airports.
It took over the airports. It did everything it had to do.
It's like charge them $100,000 a month, and you post things, and they can move the market.
Gee, you should think about having Hunter Biden on and kissing his ass.
Yikes!
What are
Just
we
another
doing?
form of the same shit.
Well, here's
Just another form of the same shit. Yeah, from the same guy who's been doing the same thing forever. All right, so let me show you the video I was talking about from this young lady, Tucker Carlson, who apparently he starts off with a quote from I think it's a shitter post from Matt Walsh, what's a woman dude.
Some of the deepest political analysis is the most simple, the most straightforward. People who note obvious truths sometimes trigger the most profound thoughts in the rest of us. So with that in mind, it is not criticism to say that the following tweet was one of the most simple and obvious and yet meaningful sent in a long time. This is from last week on the Twitter app, X, on your phone. And
it's not on my phone. I removed it because not only do I not want to support financially Elon Musk and his Doge goons grinding through everybody's personal information, I also don't want to pay for Sean Puffy Combs's legal defense fund, and he's one of the big investors. And never mind the Saudis and the people who, threw Jamal Khashoggi into a fucking wood chipper.
Matt Walsh of the Daily Wire, and here's the totality of what he wrote. Here's the whole tweet. And see if you agree or disagree. Grocery prices are insane.
Agreed.
They're still rising.
Also true.
Addressing this problem should be the number one priority of every elected leader.
Certainly. Yep. Seems wise. It's the economy stupid, I think, is what we've been used to.
End the stupid foreign wars and focus on this issue.
Well, we didn't have a foreign war. We didn't have one that we were, even Israel and Gaza, Israel against the Palestinians, that was not our war. We may have supplied some, but we didn't have troops in that area. We didn't have our ships in that area. We weren't bombing anybody directly. The Iran thing is a brand new, elective war.
It's one of the main reasons socialists are gaining power.
Boo fuckity who. Also, socialists are not gaining power. Like, again, turning a blue district bluer, and you don't have power until you can exercise the extent of your desires. That is how your power is measured, and they got to play in the sandbox with everybody else. And if your worry is they're going to convince somebody that something that used to be a private good should now be a public good, then you should shut the fuck up whenever somebody brings up the point that you are making, that something that was a public good should be a private good. That's the entire argument in a democracy. Thank you. I love my shirt too. It was in a box of shirts that that was deep sixed, and I missed it. You ever find like in a move or something, you're like, my shirts, there they are. Or I love those jeans and I can still fit in them. Thank you very much. Like, oh, thank you very much. The entire debate of a democracy is what constitutes a public good, what constitutes a private good, and how can we convince the taxpayers to pay for the public stuff, and how can we manage regulations for the private stuff so that it doesn't interfere with the rest of the public that doesn't want to participate in that private thing. I mean, am I only one? Sparksism, ladies and gentlemen, it's more than an economic theory. It's a reality.
So we can go through line by line and assess the veracity.
Also, by the way, it's not lost on us that Tuckums not only has Rachel Maddow's haircut, but her glasses as well. Jealous much?
Of each one of them, but it's just obvious looking at that every single word of that is true. Yes, grocery prices are rising. They're insane. Who hasn't gone to the grocery store in the last year and said, whoop, really?
Everybody in the administration and their relatives. That's who. Scott Bessent. Navarro, maybe he has, but he's not going to say a fucking thing. Certainly not Trump.
$200? I didn't fill my cart. They're higher than they were.
Now, yes, that's how inflation works. It's even when you have it, you're lowering it. Until you get into a disinflation, you're going to be, the prices are still going to go up, just at a slower rate.
All kinds of measures of inflation, famously the Consumer Product Index, the CPI, and A lot of them are skewed, some intentionally skewed, designed to hide the truth rather than illuminate it. But you don't need to consult any of them to get to what's actually happening. All you got to do is buy the things that you've always bought, a tube of Crest toothpaste, a jar of Skippy peanut butter, whatever's in your cart every week is more expensive than it was a year ago, 2 years ago, certainly more than it was 5 years ago. There is inflation in real terms, whether or not.
Yes, and there has been. That's why a cup of coffee doesn't cost a nickel, since the day that it did.
The government admits it, whether or not our political leaders want to own up to it or claim much reserved responsibility for it. Because
Democrats do own up to it, do claim responsibility, do work towards lowering it. That's why, because of the supply shock that happened, and again, this is not monetary inflation, this is entirely supply shock. Feel free to fucking at me. I'm sick of this idiocy, and we will discuss why I am so aggravated with the economic folks. Makes you a bit. All right, I'm just going to continue, because if I get off in that, I'm not ready to go there yet. But when I am, boy.
Yes, it's not organic. It's their fault, but it's real. You know it's real. So why is this a problem? Well, it's a problem because for a lot of people, it makes it hard to live here. The United States is suddenly an expensive country.
Suddenly? The wheels are in motion. And die.
If you've lived here your whole life, you probably have, for the most of your life, thought of it as a rich country. But an expensive country, that's the kind of place you go on vacation.
Is it? Is that the place I go to, expensive countries on vacation? I didn't realize that. I always thought I was going someplace where my dollar went a little further, I think, in a lot of cases.
That's Monaco or Barcelona. That's Tokyo. That's some place you take your family and then get home and say, woof, I don't have to pay those prices every day. Well, suddenly you live in that country. You live in an expensive
not suddenly
country where people are worried about having enough money to pay the basic bills. Housing, food, insurance, medical.
By the way, don't you love how this is fucking new to this asshole?
Cars. It's all much more expensive than it was. Then he goes on to say, stop these stupid foreign wars and focus on this issue. Well, that's obvious.
Obviously, of course. By the way, obviously is his version of Cenk Uyghur's, of course, that bullshit, which is their way of bulldozing past anything that, any valuable part of a conversation.
Why wouldn't you want to do that? Now, why would you want to do that? Well, because in a democracy, your job, if you're a leader, is to represent the people who elected you, which is to say to take their concerns to Washington and try and do something about them, fix their problems.
Yes, taxation with representation.
That's why you're there. That's the whole purpose of our government. It doesn't exist to serve itself.
Really? That's odd, considering how much you and your ilk pushed for the supreme executive power of the presidency.
Less a foreign country. It exists to serve its population. That's literally the whole point. There is no other point. And so if people across the country of all parties are saying grocery prices are insane, then you should probably think long and hard about what to do about that, if you can.
Yeah, but the problem is if you have thought long and hard about them, and as a Republican, your response is, fuck poor people, I hope they starve. Not having health insurance is probably, the quickest way to kind of broom them from the gene pool.
And there's no poll taken in the last year that shows that people are more concerned about the Iranian nuclear program or Islamic Jihad or some Muslim group far away than they are about the price of Skippy peanut butter. There's no poll that shows that because the majority doesn't feel that way.
Right, but if you have no interest in fixing those problems because you're a rich asshole, and you voted for a rich asshole, or allegedly rich. Trump's wealth is always a part of question, but let's take him at his word that he at least wants to pretend to be rich and hang out with rich people, that the rich people that he hangs out with in particular are kind of anti-population. They just don't like the plebes very much. And so if something were to happen to them, it sucks to be poor is really their response. So it's not that they're not thinking long and hard about this. It's that they don't think in these terms at all. That the number that impacts their life is whether to invest in oil going up or get out of oil if it's going down, or whether to invest in the stocks around fast food and commodities and that kind of stuff, or to get out and move your stuff to T-bills. That's what they think of in terms of, market capital and all that kind of stuff, not supermarkets. They think of markets, not supermarkets. And when this asshole's decided as a market guy to talk to the supermarket folks, and pretend that they're not surrounded, that he's not surrounded on all sides by people who make money whether gas goes up or down, who make money whether prices go up or down, can buy a dip if a company crashes or ride it if it goes up, and they've got enough money in the bank to cushion them from the FA and the FO for the foreseeable future. So they don't even give a shit if the whole thing crashes, unless it's completely unrecoverable. That's the only time they ever get flop sweaty. Look at Hank Paulson in 2008. The only time these fuckers really have heart palpitations about the cost of goods and stuff is when it gets, towards guillotine level in their minds.
Why would it? Who cares about Islamic Jihad? Honestly, who really cares about the Iranian nuclear program? Not compared to your ability to live here or remain solvent through an illness or send your kids to school or even go on vacation.
Gee, it's amazing how that once these assholes have to start, dealing with actual issues, they sound an awful lot like Democrats. They still vilify us, still talk about us like we're evil, still talk about us, as democrats and all that kind of shit. But man, if you want to actually solve the problem, you're going to sound like a Democrat. Sorry, Josh Hawley. Sorry, Rick Scott. The minute your voters expect you to fix something, oh man, we're talking social safety nets. We're talking, price regulation. We're talking about cleaning up pollution. We're talking about FEMA rolling in and picking up the tab for everything after a storm.
Those are the real concerns that people have, and why wouldn't they be? And then the final line, the reason socialists are succeeding, and they are, says Matt Walsh, is because the people in charge, which would be Republicans at this point, are ignoring these issues. He's blaming inattention by our leaders for the rise of socialism. Is that a controversial thing to say? Is that untrue? Of course, it's entirely true. And it's always been true. There has always been a movement for socialism, however defined, in the United States, certainly since the mass migration of the turn of the last century.
Well, yeah, okay. You remember the other day when he had Hunter Biden on and he just couldn't wait to blame the whole thing on the Jews when it was, again, we know for a fact it was the Russians who were through Ukrainian sock puppets who were shopping the hard drive and all that kind of stuff. And yet we got to get it for there. Okay. The need for a social safety net, according to this asshole, really has more to do with the fact that Democrats want to import a bunch of brown people and then pay their bills. It's really fucking odd, and it's his go-to. I'm not surprised by it, but that is such a regular refrain, and I gotta say, I still don't get it, because let's say you believe this idea that Democrats are allowing mass South American migration into the country with the belief that those folks are going to become Democrats, that they're going to be so grateful, they're going to thank the Democrats for letting them in, and they're going to vote for Democrats, even though the vast majority of them come from Catholic and patriarchal societies that do not believe in a woman's right to choose. And if they are the kind of person who rounded up their family and walked from fucking Guatemala to have a bootstrapping job and that kind of stuff, they are much more primed to pull up the ladder after themselves rather than let other people get, the gift of instant citizenship. They're going to want to close the border behind themselves. There are more, and you can see the kind of Latino shift towards Republican voting as they gentrify, as those people become long-term voters. And it has a lot to do with their religious beliefs. It has a lot to do with the patriarchal nature of the society. And it's always struck me as odd that anybody could assume I guess it's racist in its own nature. It's, of course, from the Republican side, but it would be equally as racist if Democrats somehow believed that that they could just import a bunch of people and those people would just vote their way forever, like as a monolith. And so I have a hard time also believing that your rank and file establishment Dems, especially, or even your left wing Dems, or even DSA members, are so deluded that they would believe that Latinos would vote as a block specifically with other people of color for some abstract reason. Again, when they come from a patriarchal, largely Catholic society. And by the way, this, in my estimation, is no reason to reject them based on that idea. But the idea that they would automatically fold into voting Democrat is absurd, right? By the way, chat room, thoughts on that? Because it's always struck me as a peculiar dig and a peculiar assertion. Most South and Central Americans are Christian conservatives. Democrats will be trying to import Europeans. Yeah, exactly. Especially Northern Europeans, right? If you wanted socialism in America and you believe democratic socialists and social democrats are the same thing, which they are not, you would be trying to get people from fucking Norway and Sweden and Switzerland. You'd want Canadians to come in. You'd want British people who are used to having a national health service, right? That's who you would, if you were really trying to manipulate the voter rolls, if that was your particular reason for doing this. More Freemason anti-Catholic crap. Also, why is that anti-Catholic? I'm not disagreeing with them on a religious level. I'm just telling you that's their belief system. That's up to them. But it's much more in line with Republicans than it is with Democrats. It's just it just does not it doesn't equal the criticism or the accusation, right? Yes, not automatic. Latin would have to be persuaded. Yeah, the Latino, they would have to. Canadians are too damn polite. Yeah. Yeah, like socially and religiously, groups of people that are patriarchal. Let's say, even leave Catholicism out of it. Let's just say you're not even dealing with the choice issue. Let's just put that aside, right? Because again, there are Catholics that certainly are pro-choice, even if they wouldn't do it themselves. Joe Biden would be a great example. Joe Biden is a Catholic who, while he would not encourage abortion in his own family, and if there was a child that needed to be reared for any particular reason, they would do everything they could to welcome that child into the family and that or whatever, but they would leave the choice up to the woman, right? So there are clearly Catholics that are okay with this, but South American societies, by and large, are very patriarchal. And it's the same issue in dealing with Indians that come to the country that are class based. You're only going to get, coming into the United States, one class of Indians most of the time, but by and large, because they're the ones that can travel, that have the means to actually do it. And again, there may have been farm workers only coming across the border, the southern border back in the day to work fields because that was by and large the jobs available to them. But once hospitality and other stuff started, and you could start your own secondary business, and maybe eventually you could own your own Motel 6 and then a hotel, and then if you become a citizen over time, you could own a Holiday Inn. It was a growth. It was a growth industry for them. It makes a ton of sense that there are different people coming to the States now than would have come. There's still obviously the labor force group, but on top of that, there's probably 50% or higher that are coming to the country for a bigger dream than just doing manual labor for a better wage than they would get in their own country. And if you're bringing your whole family, everybody's working, but dad's in charge, right? That's culturally, that's what we're talking about. And so the idea that, and I'm not even making a value judgment at this point about those folks. That's just the cultural reality they come from. But it certainly doesn't line up with the inherent, feminism and LGBTQ and sort of open society concept that Dems are supposedly all about. Right? It's almost in direct contrast, especially long term. Right? DACA's different though, because DACA, the Dreamers, those folks were brought here when they were kids. They were raised in the United States by and large. Most of them don't, there's a good portion that don't speak their native language from whatever country they came from. And I use that as a euphemism because obviously Spanish is not the indigenous language of any of Latin America, South America, or Central America, right? It is as much a colonial language as English or French in the northeast of Canada. Let's just start right there, full stop. Right? Nobody actually is. I mean, I shouldn't say nobody. There's clearly people who think that Spanish is an indigenous language instead of, oh, right, that's those are the conquistadors who came over and gave everybody, syphilis and measles and smallpox, right? Um, one day I'll come to America, but now I'll stay in Kentucky, right? Well, that was that joke Bill Paxton had in Edge of Tomorrow. Oh, you're an American? No, sir, I'm from Kentucky. Irish and Italians weren't considered white until the late 1940s. It is different. They weren't considered the acceptable whites. They weren't considered black. They were considered olive. The Italians were considered olive, Mediterranean. The Irish were, but they were subservient. It wasn't that they weren't white. It was that they were like the Slavs to the Muscovites. I heard catering trucks have free Big Macs. It's possible. Measles have made a big comeback. Thankfully, not a big comeback, but far too big, I would argue. All right. So where we went for this, let's go back to where. So the basic argument here is this idea that Democrats are trying to flood the country, and this is what Tuckums brings up in this part of the video as his fallback, right? And it drives me fucking crazy every time I hear it. With exactly what I argue, which is it makes no cultural sense for Democrats, especially ones that are culturally aware and sensitive that there are different people and diversity is our strength and not everybody believes the same thing and all families are different and all families have value, that perhaps importing a bunch of people, quote unquote, the way I'm using their language, from Latin and South America to be Democratic voters is counterintuitive due to the very nature of the family structure. So Melania's first language was English. It still wasn't English. It still isn't. Yeah, the only difference is between that she got an Einstein visa and she wasn't born here. Well, that's different. That was just cover to sneak her into the country because it was a hot chick joke, I'm sure. Yeah, this is that's the this was Joe Rogan mocking that thing. Thanks.
Well, there's people that voted for Biden that are doing it now. They're like, what did I do?
Right.
Like, what did I choose? Like, how is this guy?
Yeah, you just can't listen to an interview or he's saying some of the stuff he says that just makes no sense at all. It's like you can't listen to those interviews and feel like you made a good decision. I don't know how you
Did you hear what he said like yesterday or a couple days ago? He was talking about the Revolutionary War. He's like, one of the reasons why we lost the Revolutionary War, one of the problems with the Revolutionary War was they didn't have enough airports. Yeah. Have you seen that?
I saw that.
Yeah. Have you seen that? Yeah, we both saw it. I laughed. Oh, it's hilarious. Except
like pull him.
It's crazy.
Imagine if Trump had said something so stupid.
Any other job and you were talking like that.
Yeah.
They would go, hey, you're
by the way, pull Joe Rogan, I mean. Pull this fucker. If you're doing this job and you own a comedy club so your friends can blather whatever their bullshit is and you can pretend to still be a comedian whenever you want to borrow your own stage. How about pull this guy? You didn't get that joke, even though you've done nothing but lick Trump's asshole and badger Democrats this entire time.
Done.
If you talk like that to a doctor at your medical exam to fight, they'd be like, okay, like obviously you're not fighting. Would also, here's 8 weeks of being helped out by a professional. Like,
right. You might not ever do anything again.
No, it's one of the wildest things ever.
It's insane.
Yeah.
It's so insane. If it had only happened.
And the media gaslighting you to protect.
Jamie, do your thing. Come on, Jamie. Bring us around. Turn this boat around.
It's just people are so afraid of Trump being in office and Republicans being in office.
A few moments later.
Hanging out with the guy, I'm like, man.
Well, it's just the media narrative. I mean, so many people were fed.
Oh, yeah, the fucking media, right?
This lie that he...
Yeah, this lie, the fucking media lie. When the media and people in the media, when they lie, yeah, fuck those people,
Russia
right?
collusion.
Oh, the Russia collusion kind of thing.
Is this the video you're talking about?
Let me see what this one says. I don't think it is.
What? By the way, the same stable genius that said the biggest problem we had in the Revolutionary War is we didn't have enough airports.
Whoops. Stable genius. He seems to be referencing someone. Huh.
Whoa.
Yeah, that's it.
Whoa.
Yeah, that's it. Sorry, you just watched the joke again and you still don't fucking get it? I got news for you. Joe Rogan watched the fucking Trump speech.
What?
Just for the record.
Is that fake?
It's not fake, but he was referencing Trump saying that. Here's what Trump saying it in 2019. Donald Trump said something about that. He didn't say G.
Pull him. Somebody, I don't know who the fuck, whatever advertisers or fans, like you pull a guy like that. If a dude purports himself to be a comedian and misses a very obvious joke where Biden even uses the phrase stable genius to reference his opponent. The same stable genius who said the problem with the Revolutionary War was we didn't have enough airports. He's not talking from his own point of view. He's referencing him directly, using a phrase that everybody was aware of at the time. Trump calling himself a stable genius. This is the point. You had you had one job, just the one.
Jesus, he said a stable genius, and that's where the transcription.
Let me hear what it says. What did he say?
In June of 1775, the Continental Congress created a unified army out of the revolutionary forces encamped around Boston and New York, and named after
the great George Washington, Commander-in-Chief. The Continental Army suffered a bitter winter of Valley Forge, found glory across the waters of the Delaware, and seized victory from Cornwallis of Yorktown. Our Army manned the airport. It ran the ramparts. It took over the airports. It did everything it had to do.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. No, fuckwad. Not okay. No, Joe Rogan. Not okay. Pull this guy. That's the joke, shithead. That happened. That was ridiculous. Trump said airports twice. He started to say airports, then rammed the ramparts. Then he went back and said airports clearly. And then did everything it had to do as if that was like a save. That's almost as embarrassing as saying airports twice.
So he fucked up.
Yeah, he did. But I feel like that's you could
No, he didn't fuck up. He didn't fuck up. He is a fuck up. You fucked up. You fucked up. And look at the big smile on your face. You owe Joe Rogan, you owe Joe Biden an apology.
Tell to it sounds like a little different. He's like, you could tell he like messed up his words, but
yeah.
Oh yeah, you could just tell. Oh, you mean like the description you were making of Joe Biden giving an interview where you were like, oh, his words are all over the place? By the way, do we even need to get into this?
I know words. I have the best words.
Any of this shit?
An anonymous, really an anonymous. Critical. Look, wait. Obama. I hope they now go and take a look at the oranges.
Deliberately, willfully, and with total premeditation.
And God bless the United States.
Yeah. How many of these?
The diversity, lottery, combat infantrymen.
Combat infantrymen. Just I'd forgotten about that one. Remember that one?
Combat infantrymen.
Combat infantrymen.
To be a sanctuary.
To be a sanctuary.
Made a pivotal, really. You know, I told the U.S. Marshals to go get the man who killed another man.
Mm-hmm.
Real bipartisan solutions.
Bipartisan solutions.
No perverts.
Well, that's obviously one he failed at.
yeah. He was just, I don't know.
To go with the airports.
Well, that's the thing
funny.
about media these days. It's like
right.
Whoa, no, man. No, fuck you, both of you. No, you can't fall back and blame the fucking media, you assholes. It ain't the media's fault that you watched. Where's the media part in this? Seriously, who fucking spoon-fed these two dickheads those two clips with where they were suddenly their ears and their eyes stopped working? Are we calling for this one?
Michigan gave us Motang.
Right, remember that? How about the old faithful?
We're honored to have with us today our amazing Vice President Mike Pence and his wonderful wife Karen.
His wonderful wife Karen.
We're going to be appointing very pro-crime judges.
Well, everybody has a moment of honesty, I suppose. Oh, by the way, hit the like, share the show. It's Hal Sparks, Mike World.
You gotta look into it.
Yeah, you gotta, dude, you gotta look into it, You're like, because you can never tell. Like, it's so, you can barely, sometimes, like, things happen, and then you're like, oh, that didn't happen. So, like, I might be an asshole. So I probably, best case, you probably just not talk about that anymore. Okay, now, back to what got me aggravated in the first place. This guy who helped sell Trump to everybody and Matt Walsh who helped sell Trump to everybody are like, Jesus, Trump is such a fuck up. He's making socialism look good.
There has been a vibrant socialist movement, small but active. And one of the aims of both parties, and they both agree on this, is to keep it at bay. Now, how do you do that? Well, mostly not with force, by stealing the issues. So the claim that socialists make is we care about you. And we want to make sure you have enough money to live here without worrying unduly.
Really? It's because that's also the arguments that Democrats make and all populists, I think, in general make. And again, we all agree on the problem. It's the solution that we have a debate over.
It's a core claim. And they may be against Thanksgiving and for transgenderism or whatever insane idea they're for, and a lot of them are for those ideas. But their fundamental pitch is an economic pitch, and the pitch itself is not crazy. Their solutions may not work.
Pitch, please.
But the pitch they make to voters is very straightforward, and anybody can understand it. You don't have to be a socialist to agree. I'm certainly not a socialist. But why wouldn't I want leaders who care?
Yeah, but that, in all fairness, you are a rudderless, amoral raft in a sea of bullshit.
What Skippy peanut butter costs? Well, of course I would. And this has been recognized forever. A chicken in every pot. I mean, that was the promise of the Herbert Hoover for President campaign in 1928. His supporters said, elect Herbert Hoover, and there'll be a chicken in every pot. In other words, we'll lower the price of Doritos with Skippy peanut butter.
No. The Doritos and Skippy peanut butter would be the shit people were kind of eating. That would be the bread lines of the time. A chicken was a profoundly important source of protein that you could feed a family for real. It wasn't just grocery prices. It was the distribution of and availability of hard to find commodities, which at that time was meat.
Now, he made that claim 1 year before the Great Depression, made it a lot harder to put a chicken in every pot. But even before the Depression, Hoover's supporters knew, just like any awake person would know.
You mean woke?
That economic concerns are the core concerns of voters, and ignore them at your peril. And by the way, there was a socialist candidate that year in 1928, Norman Thomas, who by modern standards was totally moderate. By the way, he was a Presbyterian minister. He was kind of a wet liberal. He was hardly a transgender activist or an anti-white hater or anything like that. He didn't want to ban Thanksgiving, but he wanted to make sure that people's material needs were met.
Do we have Thanksgiving officially then? Was it ubiquitous across the country? I knew it was in the calendar, but
that's not a crazy goal. So to keep him from getting into power, or people like him, the Hoover campaign promised that they would pay attention to food prices. Doesn't mean that they were tools of socialism. Actually meant they were opponents of socialism, because they knew that if they didn't pay attention, you could conceivably get a socialist.
Look out.
Norman Thomas didn't do very well that year, probably because Herbert Hoover.
Yeah, anti-white is one of the big things that Tucker and Matt Walsh dig into. And by the way, are given far too much fodder by the deep left around these issues. And it allows them to run wild on this kind of stuff. And the impact is actually on real policies affecting immigrants of color.
Took the threat seriously. So this is not a new idea at all. It's the oldest idea because it's the most obvious idea. If you don't attend to people's actual concerns, they will go elsewhere.
Oh, is that why Jesus did the loaves and fishes? That makes so much sense now.
And in a purportedly democratic system, they have a whole range of options, by the way, most of which we haven't been presented with in recent history, but it could get pretty radical here. Why wouldn't it? And so you probably shouldn't ignore those concerns.
Right. Democrats don't.
That's all Matt Walsh was trying to say. He works at the Daily Wire. He's not a wild-eyed radical. But you would have thought he was reading the Communist Manifesto on air and burning an American flag, given the response from his fellow conservatives, other elements of the MAGA coalition. Rather,
yeah. You're not allowed to recognize reality. Thank you so much. You're not allowed to recognize reality when dear leader is in charge, especially when that reality entails him not just ignoring the issue, but actively telling people with those concerns to get fucked.
Ignoring him. If you disagree with someone, you always have the option to just ignore him. I didn't hear what you said. Sorry. Rather than just ignoring him, or maybe even smarter, paying lip service to agreement. Yeah, no, Matt Walsh makes a smart point. Like people care what their groceries cost. Normal people care. Maybe you even find out what groceries cost and then play a more elaborate role. And, I was at the grocery yesterday and boy, prices are high. We're going to do something about that.
Sorry. You have to the people you're talking about have to actively go out and find out what groceries cost from scratch. Wow, I wonder what that whole grocery thing they keep saying about that. It sounds like an old word.
You would think they would do that. But that's the opposite of what.
Also, no, I wouldn't, because they're people you talk to or Matt Walsh talks to.
They did. And by they, I mean the neocons, the people who are in charge of the Trump administration now, not the people who came in with Trump, but the people.
Right. Again, not Trump's fault.
Who somehow took control of the Trump administration.
That's what it is. It's not that he's a liar. It's not that he's a rich, like affluenza prick like you are that used populism and promises to get in the door and then started filling his own fucking pockets. It couldn't be that. He's just being led astray by an army of neocons who desperately work for the Israeli government or something. Poor Trump. If only he had the moral and philosophical fortitude to push back. The poor man.
And turned it in a totally different direction.
No, not letting you get away with that either. No, this was always the direction. He always talked about this shit. You could tell when he was saying the bumper stickers just for people, but the minute he started speaking real, he just, like, it was racism, classism, the whole way.
The one most of us voted for, those people attacked Matt Walsh. And not just Matt Walsh, but the idea that it is legitimate, that it's allowed, that it's within bounds to complain about food prices.
Hey, cult's gonna cult, asshole.
What's wrong with you? Complaining about food prices?
What the fuck is he calling conservatives neoconservatives? Yeah, exactly. Well, that's the irony. Neocon allows them to ignore the fact that we're talking about conservatives who, I guess, like the war machine, was the theory. But neocon has now become a slam for anybody to the left of or to the right of you in the entire spectrum. If you really want to dig somebody, because the idea is that they're for, like, even if an American leader wanted to stop the genocide in Darfur, they would still be a neocon in that situation to some folks. You understand?
We're going to play you a clip from someone from whom we try not to play a lot of clips. It's Ben Shapiro. We're going to play it in just a sec, but before we do, just a caveat. We're not playing this to suggest that Ben Shapiro was like a shaper of history, a mover in American politics. He's not.
He was at one point.
He's an employee like most everybody else. He's doing what he's told. He represents larger interests, obviously.
Okay, who? Is this the idea because he's Jewish and he wears a yarmulke? The idea is that he obviously works for the Israeli government. Everything else is just bullshit to get him in a position to manipulate other people about this one particular issue where he can sort of Amy Coney Barrett them towards Israel, like she's a heat-seeking missile against women's rights, that, everything else is just a ruse to get to that point.
So why bother to replay and then rebut something that Ben Shapiro said? Well, in an effort to
because they're both on the Daily Wire,
to the people who put him up to it. So the whole point of Ben Shapiro, and there is a point to Ben Shapiro, this is not like some organic phenomenon, like Ben Shapiro was just so charming and brilliant that he somehow got into Harvard Law School and then, eyebrows and all, emerged as a social media titan. No, of course not.
Sorry, Nepo Baby says what? I'm not going to be in the business of defending fucking anybody on the right, any of these people. But the idea that this asshole is talking about other people getting access they didn't deserve. Why in the ever-loving fuck did Tucker Carlson ever have the room to become a pundit, much less on CNN or any of these other channels, and then end up with a fucking Fox show, except for the fact that he was born, $90 million flush on day one.
Ben Shapiro had a deal with Facebook, a deal no one else got. And so the point of Ben Shapiro,
citation needed,
was here's a way to send a very specific message to outline and sell a very specific worldview to young people. Ben Shapiro is an old person's idea of a young person. He is a spokesman.
Oh my God. He was like Charlie Kirk before Charlie Kirk came along. And he was easier and more palatable for a broad-reaching coalition of conservatives. Charlie Kirk is a white evangelical. And he's taller. He was taller, and he had a blonde shiksa wife, right? Whereas Ben Shapiro is a diminutive Jew, and even if he says what you want him to say, you guys would rather hear it coming out of the mouth of a tall white guy. That's it. He was there first, and he was a smart young person initially. They've all aged. That's how this shit works.
For a group of older people aimed at younger people. I have an idea. Let's get Ben Shapiro. This guy, Ben Shapiro, he's brilliant. He's a really promising young kid. And we'll get him to sell free market economics and a robust Reaganite foreign policy to the young folks. And by the way, it kind of worked for a while.
Well, yes, because the audience was different.
To the trans movement, which you suspect they also kind of concocted.
Did they? Who's they? We must be talking about the Israelis, right? The Israelis are why America cares about one side or other of the trans issue.
This same group, but whatever, wherever that came from. For a while, Ben Shapiro seemed like he was on the side of common sense, and he's for free speech, and he's against the trans lunacy, et cetera, et cetera. But always, from day one, the point was Ben Shapiro is going to sell this very specific version of economics, not capitalism. It bears no resemblance to anything Adam Smith advocated for, but the kind of modern American monopoly arrangement where 6 companies can behave like countries, have sovereignty, unlike our own nation, and control every part of your life through debt, which is...
By the way, you can tell how much conservatives have fucked up, so much so that, but for a couple of throw conservatives a bone, like calling it trans lunacy, this asshole sounds like a Bernie bro right now.
Kind of broad, but fairly accurate definition of our current...
By the way, all populist has overlap. They say the same shit. It's the solutions that make the difference.
Economic system. So sell that, and then sell the even harder to pitch idea that it's unpatriotic to oppose wars for Israel. First of all, it's obviously anti-Semitic. I mean, it's just an expression of hate. If you don't want to regime change some country you can't find on a map.
Also, I'd like to put a pin in this bullshit too. This whole you couldn't find it on a map thing. Democrats, by and large, and our progeny and our friends can, in very short order, find most of the big players, certainly on a fucking map. Really quickly. It's not complicated, especially when the names are written on them, but even when they aren't. Iran is not hard to find on a map. We're not talking about Papua New Guinea or something like that, or oh, that's where Argentina is, right? For some people. That's not what we're talking about at all. And this lazy kind of you couldn't even find it on a fucking map. Just because you can't, don't project that shit on other people. The other thing is you can't find it on a map has a lot to do with this kind of isolationist America thing that could have applied to Auschwitz. Do you really know where Auschwitz is? It's in Poland, right? So could you even find it? And is that technically Poland anymore now that the Germans have taken it? And isn't it really their area, right? So can you find it on a map? That's what that all is rooted in.
So you're a bigot. You're basically a Nazi. In fact, you must be for Hitler. You probably are opposed to the Second World War, too. You probably have problems with Churchill.
By the way, I'm fairly certain Tucker does on all those fronts. Now, anyways.
It's literally immoral to oppose Ben Shapiro's employers for policy. But it's also un-American. This country was founded to fight wars for Israel. That's why we're here.
That's fascinating. Really? It was founded to fight wars for even though Israel didn't exist at the time? Sorry, this was just some sort of weird evangelical crusader act? Fuck me.
I mean, our founders said explicitly, America exists as a Judeo-Christian country to support Israel. Okay? So whatever.
They what? No. There's nothing in there about this being a Judeo-Christian country. No. What the fuck? Not at all. What? Especially a country that didn't exist at the time.
Whatever prime minister of that country wants, we're doing. I mean, that's why we're here. So if you're
No, it's not. What the fuck?
Against it, well, you don't believe in America. You're against America. Why don't you just leave? Maybe.
All right. I can't even tell at this point whether he's saying stuff he believes or he believes Ben Shapiro believes or he believes that Ben Shapiro wants people to believe that. I believe.
Revoke your green card. Oh, don't have a green card? We'll strip you your citizenship. And that's what ICE exists to do now. In any case.
Sorry. So the ICE roundups, just so you know, are also ICE is working for Israel. Now, it's just so they can round up people for criticizing Israel. All right.
You should know watching this that these are not just Ben Shapiro's opinions, to the extent he actually has opinions, who knows? But these are the opinions of the people who prop up Ben Shapiro, who created Ben Shapiro. And this is what...
By the way, this is also coming from a guy who allegedly has here 5.7 million subscribers, 702,000 views. And on his Rumble page, it was like 7 million subscribers, paid subscribers that allegedly did this. And then the number came out, it was like 7,200. That if there's ever been somebody propped up by bots and fake views on the internet, it like Tucker's in the top 5.
They think this is the argument they sincerely believe, apparently.
Just play the clip, asshole.
It's going to appeal to young people who are worried about the price of burritos. Watch this.
Unfortunately, this has become the mode for a lot of young people. Why can't I afford what my parents could afford when they were my age? Spoiler alert, when it comes to groceries, you can. And in areas, by the way, for housing, where deregulation has been the rule, you still can. In fact, you have today more restaurant options. Your food costs less of your disposable income, and it is probably significantly better. Here in the United States
probably
of America, we are fatter, richer, have nicer houses, nicer cars, and the food we eat is much, much better than it was for our parents in general.
Okay. That is by and large a factor of productivity increases because of technology over time, because that's how the evolution of technology works. And a lot of the better houses, better food, and all this stuff comes by and large from, wait for it, regulations. That's right. Increasingly over time, Democrats almost exclusively putting limits on lead paint and fucking flammable fabrics and the amount of plastic content in homes and those kind of things. So, yeah, never mind the fact that this is just elitist claptrap. But understand that one of the reasons why he can make these claims around the available food and the safety of it and the quality of it and the available homes and the safety of them and the quality of them is because over the decades, Democrats, again, almost exclusively put in regulations to make them safer, to make them more healthy, to get rid of things like asbestos and lead paint and lead in gas. You tit.
Our parents probably would have considered a $4.50 burrito at Del Taco a gourmet meal.
First of all, how old are your fucking parents? No, they wouldn't. Your great-great-grandparents might have. But that would have been because of the sheer available calories of the thing and the decadent lack of nutrients comparatively. because you'll notice that oftentimes in a gourmet meal, with the exception of like a giant steak or something like that, the nutrient density is a trade-off with the fluffy, sugary, tasty, fat version of it, the aspect of it. So I guess anybody starving would look at a Del Taco burrito or taco as a gourmet meal. In the 20s.
Your parents would have considered a $4.50 taco at Del Taco a deal because your parents were proles. They were pathetic. They were disgusting people. And
he's throwing in this whole thing about their goys. That Ben Shapiro isn't talking to Jews in that clip. He's talking to white Americans. By the way, stop abusing tits. I'm talking titmouse or the twerpy birds, for the record. It's like a knit as well. Tiny little no-see-ums or biting insects, fucking mosquito, same kind of zone.
Anything was enough for them. You don't want to use the term goy slop, but
that's what he's talking about. That's why the title of this is Ben Shapiro to America, Shut Up and Eat Your Goy Slop. So maybe you do. So, all right, there we go. Now, I could, whoops, get back out. I could, it goes on like that for a ridiculous amount of time. Now, this is, make sure this page is open correctly. Okay. So the economics of the time. One of the reasons why, again, I don't believe Tucker for a fucking second. So, and he is of the class of people like Maria Bartiromo and the other people on Fox Business, where they are more concerned about the commodity level cost of a good than the grocery level. They're about markets, not supermarkets. And from a supermarket standpoint, that's where people are getting hurt the most. From a market standpoint, you can make money both sides of it. You can make money coming and going, especially if you don't care, which again is a big part of this. So there are areas where the market goes, hey, if oil and gas start to suck, or let's move to the stock market. If the stock market looks a little volatile and we don't trust it, let's move into T-bills or whatever that shit is. And it'll buy bonds, right? And diversifying these things, having a little bit of this and a little bit of that is a good hedge against things. But that's what the fucking, retail investors do. You know what I mean? The ones that actually pay a mortgage. Fuck those people. Those are the folks that have a broad spectrum investment strategy for their 401k or their pension fund. They hope it's spread out and it's in an index or something like that. But the ones that jump around and make money on money, which is Scott Bessent's friends and Donald Trump's friends at this point, because the Trump organization doesn't make shit. Not that they ever did after his dad died, but they don't make shit and they haven't made shit in a long time. But they can make money using other people's money. Okay? Gold is the same way. Ugh. Don't get me started on pretty rocks. But this shows up in let's see, scroll this. There you go. Costliest U.S. bond sale since 2001 is investor warning to Bessent. Follow me on this, and you will see why I got wound up into a fuck you. Remember back in COVID in 21, 22, when everybody's talking about inflation and all the money printer go burr dickheads were all going, they're flooding money into the system and it's driving prices up. And it had nothing to do with that. It was fucking supply shock. The fact that Americans have more money and could buy stuff that there was very little of, it was the demand of the limited supply that drove the prices up. That was it. And shipping was more expensive because a lot of ships were shut down. The whole world was shut down. So the number of things in circulation at all while life continued to go on by and large in a few countries, Americans were able to buy their way to the front of the line because of some of the available cash, but largely just because we were doing better than a lot of other countries in that, especially around COVID, and weren't reacting as heavily or had a better backup, namely than China. All right. So years later, I think it was in 2024, 2020, we'll have to remember. I think it was 2024. They start showing up these Bloomberg articles. Actually, it wasn't monetary inflation. It's not. There's not enough dollars in circulation right now. It was supply shock, and I was like, "Fuck you!" Well, like for years, they were helping Fox News build this narrative against Joe Biden, against the Democrats, that it was all about money printer go burr and blah blah blah, and it had nothing to do with it, and they fucking knew it, and then they finally copped to it. Okay, so see if you can notice what makes me aggravated about this part. Okay, here you go. There's a couple of stories like right in a row. I'll show you. The U.S. government sold 30-year bonds at the highest interest rate in a quarter century, a testament to investors' demand for greater compensation to finance the nation's growing deficit. The yield at the $25 billion sale came in at 5.2%, the most since 2001, even as, also, by the way, like supply shock from the past, and then oil glut. Remember my shit about oil glut? Remember what the oil glut? We're making too much oil, and every president knew this going into last year. Okay, oh buddy. Even as a drop in oil prices supported U.S. debt in secondary market trading. The sale, blah, blah, blah. It's a headache for Donald Trump and Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent. Ahead of midterm elections in November, lofty government financing costs are already feeding through to the broader economy after years of elevated inflation, government spending. Investors are being asked to absorb a growing supply of government debt globally at a time when deficits remain large, inflation uncertainty persists. Okay, if investors continue to demand greater compensation for inflation and fiscal risk, long-term yields could move higher and away from 5% even if Treasury auctions remain well covered. So this is this big thing. Like, oh, we're having to sell 30-year bonds with a 5% return. We're going to have to pay 5% on every $1 billion that, every year that, for 30 years to pay out this, which is, very expensive. Okay. Now let's jump over to this. Asian stocks set for gains as U.S. inflation cools. Now you can see why this caught my eye. U.S. inflation cools. Does it now? Asian stocks were poised to extend gains Friday as further evidence of moderating U.S. inflation and a pullback in oil prices reinforced bets that the Federal Reserve will refrain from raising interest rates next month. Wait for it. Equity index futures pointed higher in Japan and South Korea, putting MSCI's Asia Pacific Index on track for a third day of gains, while Australian contracts fell. U.S. futures edged higher, 0.7%. On the record, the NASDAQ 100%, NASDAQ 100, jumped 1.15% to its highest since late June, as increased hyperscaler spending buoyed tech shares. U.S. crude slipped 0.2% early Friday, snapping its run of gains. Snapping its run of gains by going down 0.2%. Snapping, is it? Okay. Treasury yields fell as much as 7 basis points across maturities after data showed U.S. wholesale inflation cooled in July as energy and food costs declined. Did they? Money markets now price in it a less than 40% chance of a Fed rate increase in September. Elsewhere, a gauge of the dollar edged lower on Thursday, while gold traded below 4,400 an ounce. The inflation data following last week's softer than expected jobs report and a pullback in oil prices is easing pressure on the Fed to tighten policy. Investors are now looking at upcoming U.S. data for clues as to whether policymakers can remain on hold. The next round of data that we get in September and the lead up to the meeting will be pretty critical. The market obviously has started to really discount hikes more and more, given that the data in recent months has been more dovish. U.S. wholesale inflation decelerated by more than forecast in July. The producer price index rose 4.7% from a year earlier, 5.5%, down from a 5.5% annual increase in June. It went up 4.7% and was unchanged from the previous month. So it's holding steady at almost 5%. And that's the moderating factor that's going to make this. Jesus Christ. All right. Then this is where, okay. Oil holds drop as Hormuz deal elusive while ship attacks persist. Why do I have to do the math? Oil holds drop. Oil holds drop. Oil holds drop as Hormuz deal elusive while ship attacks persist. Oil held a decline as traders monitored efforts toward a deal that could reopen the Strait of Hormuz. Yeah, could it? Will it? You don't say. While more attacks on tankers and energy infrastructure kept the market on edge. West Texas Intermediate traded near $81 a barrel after declining 2.4% in the previous session, which again, it's still over 80, which it was the week before. And again, all right, Brent, which is the whole thing is like, why isn't it 150? We'll get there. Brent crude closed around 87 on Thursday. Iran and Oman remain short of an accord to reopen the crucial waterway, despite an upbeat tone early in the week that an agreement was close. Yeah, it's called bullshit. It's the phrase. It's just, that was all bullshit. Okay, so here. Crude is still exiting the Persian Gulf, often on tankers with their transponders switched off. But vessels transiting Hormuz face ongoing threats. Abu Dhabi National Oil Company, one of the most successful to ferry barrels out, said 2 more of the ships were attacked on Thursday evening, underscoring the risks. In the Red Sea, Iran-backed Houthi militants say they targeted Saudi Aramco's Jazan refinery and following an early attack on delayed restart plans oil futures. Physical buyers and discretionary traders seem content to stay in wait-and-see mode. That's leaving very little underlying support and giving macro and systematic flows more influence. Okay, so why, ladies and gentlemen, am I annoyed? Okay. So let's see if we can do this. One more. Yeah, okay. Before I get to the Trump orders us to not use magnets in our catapults anymore. Dun, 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 dun. Let's see. I'm looking for one. Yeah, hold on. I need one more article to show you guys, and then I'm going to get so aggravated. Yeah, here you go. Fuck me. Okay, so it's split on rate. Yeah. So search Fed split on rate hikes. There you go. Yeah, here it is. This is where all of that stuff just starts to add up in a way that I find infuriating. Okay, here we go. Fed split on rate hikes deepens. That means the Fed board they're trying to decide whether they're for or against something. For or against the rate hikes or cuts or staying the same, whatever. There's a lot of debate right now. As 5 years of high inflation tests patience. Now, let's just imagine the White House reading that out loud. They're going to go, thanks, Joe Biden, and then they're not going to solve it themselves. 5 years of high inflation is testing the patience of Federal Reserve officials and showcasing a split between those willing to wait before hiking interest rates and those who say time is running out. Recent comments, by the way, the Volcker rights are wrong. This isn't a monetary issue. The rate hikes are not helpful, and holding it even steady is stupid. The market is not flush with cash. It's dumb. They're stagnating a lot of the economy, and Trump is, hoping that he can fix it with tax breaks. That's what the feds have been trying to do. They're like jockeying between like, hey, if we give you a break on what you pay for this stuff and the banks keep that part, then we can get the banks to take back the money from you effectively. You can write it off, but we'll just get it from the other hand. Okay. Some non-voting members of the Federal Open Market Committee sided with 3 dissenters who preferred a modest increase. Others across the majority say it's still possible inflation will cool on its own, though their patience to look through the price shocks is wearing thin. And again, okay. We get this. All right. It's an all too familiar. Did they leave out two there? It's an all familiar crossroads. An all too familiar crossroads for central bankers. Hike too soon at the risk of weakening the labor market, wait too long and see price pressures becoming entrenched. The surprise decline in July payrolls and Friday's job report did little to clear up the debate. The data has been ambiguous on which one of these stories is actually playing out. No, it hasn't, you assholes. You just think the cause is wrong. I'm fine. All right. There's increasing pressure on the Fed to act, he added, in light of the lack of significant progress on inflation. Employment declined in July and hiring was lower than previously thought in the prior 2 months, renewing concerns about potential softness in the labor market, which is an argument for lowering the interest rate, not raising it. Speaking after the report, Richmond Fed President Tom Barkin said the labor market appears to remain in. Who the fuck is editing Bloomberg right now? Jesus. In weak balance, similar to where it has been over the past year and a half. Maybe I'm the only person that reads this, including the editors at fucking Bloomberg. Holy shit. Hey, Bloomberg, do you need a spell checker? I'm very expensive. But my uncle was the grammar doctor for several presidential administrations, helping them decide on curious questions of grammar. They reached out to him in case they were writing a speech, and then Trump came along and Bush too came along and nobody gave a shit how presidents spoke anymore. The intention is now turning to inflation data to be released ahead of the Fed's September gathering, including a consumer price report due next week. Officials see inflation easing back to their 2% target by 2028, according to the projections released in June. Yet, the consumer price index at 3.5% in June and the central bank's preferred measure of inflation at 3.3%, excluding food and energy, which, by the way, means you and me, concerns around officials' ability to get there are mounting. Discussion among policymakers already on full display will be fleshed out in 3 weeks, leading the Fed's annual economic symposium at Jackson Hole, Wyoming, which is where you go to really check the real price of everything. Okay. The Fed's tools are best suited for smoothing out the business cycle, and what's really driving the shifts we see in the aggregate data is a lot of structural shifts under the hood. The Fed's tools aren't best suited for that. I have this running. Aren't they're not best suited for that, are they? No, they're not. That's not. All right. So the purpose of this whole thing is that the cost of these things is going up at a measure higher than other stuff, and it has nothing to do with the amount of money in circulation. It has entirely everything to do with the supply shock and the lack of availability of certain things post-COVID, as we start coming out of that, and it took a long time, followed by Trump's tariffs, which are a brand new version of the same thing. And Trump's tariffs are effectively COVID Part 2, a way for him to extract revenue to pay for what he wants to do in government, namely add $1 trillion to the defense budget, to pay for it while still giving tax breaks. And this movement by the right wing away from income tax specifically to a tariff-based economy, which again works really well until there's a blockade, either of the stuff you were bringing in, like they blockade your water so you can't get shit in, or a blockade of the country that, let's say China attacks Taiwan and shipments of Chinese goods are no longer coming to the United States because the United States and Europe join in the fight to protect Taiwan. And so you're not going to let ships of any sort from a country like that get anywhere near your border. And so there's no tariff revenue. You can't have this. That's why we moved to an income tax, because any country that works off of tariffs can have their economy gutted just with fucking piracy. All you got to do is stop what's coming in. Nobody pays a tariff on goods that can't get here. Okay, so where's this? Okay, where are you? Okay, one more thing. I'd like, this is gonna bug me. Is this guy? Is it that one? No. No, go away. This is gonna make me nuts. Okay, back up here. Yeah. Okay, so let me wrap it up and we'll move on to something else with this guy. Because this is, yeah, hold on. I'm telling you the things that, the flames burning my face. All right. Was it, yeah. Oil supply crunch. Whoops. I can spell crunch. Crunch worsens despite. Oh, I'll know that. Quiet. Simmer down. Let's check. Let's check the oil glut theory. Oil supply crunch worsens despite wars. Demand hit. The IEA says, the International Energy Agency said. Global oil markets are undergoing a more severe supply squeeze than expected following renewed escalation in the Iran war, even as demand takes a deeper hit from higher prices. Now, this is the big concern for the oil folks. The big concern for them is eventually there is a line where the public starts to get fucking tired of dealing with oil's bullshit. Yeah. Andre's like, I've never seen Hal at a loss for words. Believe me, it's not a loss for words. There are just too many words rushing to the front of my face. Demand takes a deeper hit. It's already taken a deeper hit from higher prices. The world faces a shortfall of 1.8 million barrels a day this quarter. I want you to keep this number in mind. 1.8 million short. Even with all the tightness that's going on. Excuse you? Yes. More than double earlier projections, as renewed hostilities and maritime disruptions derail a production recovery in the Middle East, according to a monthly report from IEA, which advises major economies. For 2026 as a whole, the deficit will likely be the widest in 5 years. Stockpiles are tightening again, even as high fuel prices prompt the agency to deepen estimates for a decline in global oil demand this year by almost 50% to 1.6 million barrels a day. Like the availability, 1.8, lower than necessary. The demand lower than by 1.6 million. It's 200,000, 200,000 barrel difference a day between these two things. And that demand, remember how we were talking about the entrenched prices in the other one, where if you let inflation go so long, that becomes the expected price and it never goes down unless somebody enters the market brand new and starts, selling a new product at a reasonable rate, and then everybody has to jump down and sell everything, like have a sale that never stops. Welcome to Mike Pillow. While a brief ceasefire between the U.S. and Iran in mid-June revived oil exports from the Persian Gulf, shipping and regional energy infrastructure are once again under fire. That's squeezing consumers with higher costs for fuels such as gasoline and diesel, the workhorse of the global economy, and complicating central banks' struggle with stubbornly high inflation. Everybody's business. A weekly podcast that breaks down the questions we know about our increasingly confusing. Okay, still the output losses are far smaller than the worst case scenarios painted earlier in the war, having been tempered by an array of workaround measures. Those include alternative pipelines used by Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates, and a network of shuttle tankers plying the Strait of Hormuz. U.S. Energy Secretary Chris Wright said Tuesday that 9 million barrels a day have escaped in the past week, almost half of pre-war volumes. So get this. Half of pre-war volumes, just about half, 20 million barrels a day went through there. We're down to 9. But we're only 1.8 short of the oil necessary. That means we were already operating in this circumstance at a 7 million barrel a day surplus before the war started. Now, there are two things that can happen with a surplus. New markets open up because this oil is now available to them, and there's just so much flowing. The price comes down and the extension goes out. So countries that previously could not afford as much oil as other industrialized countries can now start buying this and building shit out. But all the countries that have gas motors in them have all the gas motors they fucking need. That's where we are. So they're at the beginning of the war. This is why Trump thought it would be okay. This is one of the reasons. One of the reasons why Trump and Netanyahu and arguably the Saudis, I know the Saudis have a different reason because they knew it would drive prices up, even because the value of the product that they live off of was going down. So why kind of Russia wants Trump to go to war with Iran a little bit and fuck around with the Strait of Hormuz, because it drives up the price of oil, and that makes them more money because the demand for oil is going down. It's no matter how much Trump wants to put the fucking lead back in the gas, the era of oil is over, and they know it. So this war almost entirely serves to jack up the price for certain oil producers. But there will clearly be in the campaign around 2028, watch for a renewed push, not just from Democrats pushing for, anti-polluting electric cars and sodium batteries and modern technology and all that kind of stuff. Watch for Republicans to start renewing their old, why are we buying a commodity, that from places that hate us? If you end up with a little turbo change, I see. All the gas is coming from the Oval Office. Well, that's what's been waking him up, apparently. So the point being is that the demand has been going down. It's right there in those numbers for anybody to look at. If we have gone from 20 million barrels a day to 9 million barrels a day, and by cutting it in half, We're only 2 million barrels a day short of what the market can sustain by demand. Everything over that is surplus. It will drive the price down, certainly, for a period of time. But once that price falls to a steady point, you'll either the oil companies will have to control it, the countries that produce as well will have to control its release to make sure that it doesn't drop below a non-profitable zone. And this includes countries that socialize their oil industry. They don't want it to go below that point if they're going to sell it to the rest of the world and take in that revenue for programs for their own people. I mean, it's arguably what the Saudis and the UAE did for their folks. The point is that number is what leapt out at me. We've cut production and available oil by 10 million barrels just from the Strait of Hormuz, 11. And we're only 2 million short of the demand. That's proof the glut was already coming. That's why Trump knew, or the people around him knew if he wasn't aware, that the price wouldn't jump immensely if you could, find some alternate routes and get a decent amount of it out of there. You didn't need the full amount because they were already pumping too much. Other than that, I have no opinion. All right. So I'm sorry if this got in the weeds too much. I apologize but that aggravated the fuck out of me. I am absolutely right about this. Get used to the idea. Now, a couple of things that were funny. Apparently, we didn't even the anti-Masonic attack that I received earlier because I'm somehow anti-Catholic as someone who voted for Joe Biden twice, and supports their right to exist. I feel attacked, especially today, by canned asshole over here who capstone the secret rulers of America. And this is Anna Kasparian. Anna Kasparian a year ago would have been the last person Candace expected to agree with on anything. Now they're saying the same things. Candace sits down and explains why the old left-right divide is collapsing and why once you're confronted with real evil, the petty tribal grievances stop mattering. Oh my God.
Our dollar bill, which we...
Oh my God, is that Lionel? She's on Lionel Nation?
Covered that we were reading. It's a Freemasonic symbol. And yes,
What
it was
did they...
the bankers, the Rothschilds,
Right.
the Weiss.
Okay, the bankers and the Rothschilds are not Freemasons. And the Freemasons are one of the oldest, I happen to be one, are the oldest fraternity that ever existed, and they were the first union. That was the purpose. Masonry was such a skill that they could demand, they could not be forced to labor well because the craftsmanship was so high, and they wanted to extend that to everybody else. And you have Freemasons to thank for public libraries and the public infrastructure that we have. You are a silly person. And one of the big reasons why she just went to Russia, why the Russians and the Chinese attack it, is because it is a secular religious organization where everybody is entitled to their own unique mistake, and that everybody's on the level. Everyone is equal. So there's a reason why right-wingers and Republicans and Russians and fucking oligarchs and all these assholes have attacked Masonry forever, is because it is precisely the thing that would undermine them. It is birthed out of the Enlightenment in its modern form. It is about equality and about religious pluralism. As long as you really believe what you're saying, nobody can say otherwise. And you should be able to share your humanity, right? Okay. Yes, Mozart was a Freemason. Like Walt Disney, like go through a bunch of them. All right. Gerald Ford. Okay. Ben Franklin introduced, he gave George Washington his apron. If it hadn't been for Ben Franklin's relationship with Lafayette and their brotherhood at a Masonic lodge in France, the French wouldn't have come and fought with us against the British. So shut the fuck up, Candace. you asshole. That's why it's on there. Because it's a recognition that it wouldn't have existed. The country wouldn't exist without it.
That were behind the Illuminati. That stuff is real. It is not imagined. It is the
You're an asshole. The Illuminati is not the same thing.
Basis of our foundation.
Are you not fascinated how left and right doesn't exist?
Of course it does, you fucking moron. Left and right doesn't exist. Okay, let's sit Candace down with, I don't know, one of the DSA people, and they can start checking off all the solutions they agree with. This is how fucking dumb Lionel is and the rest of these idiots. This is how it's so aggravating. They think that because we agree on the reality, that somehow they notice gravity, finally, that suddenly that means there's overlap. That suddenly we agree on the solution. This is like saying, I think we both agree that pedophilia is terrible and should be ended. Yes, agree. Yes, we all agree. Excellent. Well, how are we going to do it? I propose we arrest all pedophiles and put them in jail, treat it as a capital offense. You don't have to kill them, but life without the chance of parole and stuff, that's a crime against a child, that extreme kind of, you get opted out of society. That's what I would suggest. What's your solution, since we both agree that we should stop pedophilia? I suggest we kill all the children. Excuse me? Yeah. If we kill all the children, you can't be a pedophile if there aren't any kids around. I thought we agreed. What? See, there is no left and right. So that's how stupid this is. Thank you. I think I'd be a lovely member of the Pentaveret.
Loved your interview with Hunter Biden. Loved it. Anna Kasparian, a year ago, I would have thought, not my cup of tea. But now we're just, wait a minute, what? Something has happened. Yeah. There's no.
Yes. Anna has finally been unmasked as one of the Jimmy Dore and Schenk's rich fellow travelers. She's acting exactly like, someone in a hilltop gated community acts.
Explain this.
I just think it's when you're confronted with real evil, you kind of stop with like your petty grievances with people, and you realize what's happening in this world, and we're suddenly being confronted with real evil. Like we're talking about people that are trying to allow the assassination of a good man in broad daylight, right? We're talking about people that are
no, hold on. Whoa. Where in the fuck is the issue with what happened to Charlie Kirk? That I would disagree with him politically, but he was clearly killed by somebody who had it out for him. And they may have meant it as a political act, but it was a straight up murder in Utah. Why would that make me question all the other values I have about a woman's right to choose, about LGBT rights, about minority rights, about, fairness in housing and in employment and proper environmental regulations? And what are you talking about? We weren't confronted by real evil. You are convinced that you are, because you think your friends killed your other friend, supported by the guy that you helped get elected. That has nothing to do with me. That has nothing to do with this side of things at all. And if you're willing to put aside your belief in healthcare, education, good infrastructure, proper foreign policy, being forced, soft power things like USAID and making sure people don't starve or refugees don't die, while, mitigating the weapons you give and you sell to other countries based on like a real moral decision. You guys apparently are putting all that aside because Tyler Robinson allegedly killed Charlie Kirk, and you desperately want it to be Charlie Kirk's friends and the FBI working with the Mossad pulling this shit off, and Anna hates the Jews too, so you guys have just found this cohort that makes you both jettison every other aspect of your politics. And why, even if you did, that's a meaningful release. Like, sorry, if you solved for this one issue, like we just suddenly went, you know what? We're not going to give any offensive weapons. This would be my suggestion, by the way. And I think Democrats could run on this. We're going to have the same policy towards Israel that we had towards Ukraine when it had Russian sock puppets in charge. When Trump was saying Obama gave blankets and he gave javelins, we're going to move to the blanket side of things. We will help Israel with defensive weapons, but if they want offensive weapons, they have to spend their own money. How about that? That seems fairly reasonable. Yes. Defensive stuff, maybe that's that's an agreement we can have, and a debate on the quality and extent of those kind of things, and more buy-in from their Arab neighbors, and trying to develop peace amongst all those areas. That's the main focus. While we build back towards maybe a future where there was a two-state solution, those kind of things, where that has a chance again once Netanyahu is put in jail and all that kind of shit. Right? That sensible policies for sensible people. But are you telling me that if that happened, or a bill went through because there were enough, Thomas Masseys and MTGs who have been broomed or kicked out of the right anyways, that were in there and went, okay, just no weapons, that's it. No more aid to Israel. That gets done. Right? That happens and gets done. Are you telling me that from that point forward, now that that's in the rearview mirror, you would agree on healthcare, on infrastructure, on regulations, on tax policy, on women's rights, on minority rights, on caring for asylum seekers, on the list is fucking endless. The only reason there's a horseshoe theory here is because even before all this shit, you guys both hated the Jews, and now the Overton window has shifted enough where that's acceptable in this window. And the idea that once it shifts back and somebody sensible might be running Israel, for example, once that possibly happens, you guys are going to agree on all the other shit. You're suddenly going to be care about what happens to trans kids. You're going to suddenly start giving a shit about funding homelessness programs. I mean, as president, one of the things I would say is that homelessness is a national security problem. And if there's an idea that we could solve that problem for $10 billion, well, shit, that's about half the price of a bomber. So why don't we just give, take that money from the defense budget as an act of national security, solve homelessness in the country, if it's indeed possible, bring together all the people who say it's possible, all the people who say it would just take $10 billion, get these fuckers in a room. Let's go. Work it out. But you'd be okay with that? If I took, as President Sparks, I took $10 billion from the defense budget in the discretionary area, where as the administrator of the budget, I would have some discretionary policy around that. And I decided for the security of the nation, it would be better for us if we solved our homeless problem, because there's all sorts of places where drug dealers and spies and gangs and all kinds of can hide amongst tent cities and cause all kinds of trouble, or people on sex offender registries can hide amongst homeless encampments and never register, even if they're in a couple hundred yards from a school, right? And that destabilizes the country, right? Yeah. You and DSA now? Comrade. No, I'm not. Not at all. Because there's nothing socialist about that. That's democratic taxation. And again, you're assuming the solution is government housing. It might not be. That $10 billion, I have yet to see what the cash count is on that. That's why I'm saying get all these people in a room. I want everybody who's ever said, and from an NGO standpoint or a governmental standpoint that said that that's how much it would cost. Now it's $20 billion a year. Great. Now that I work towards a solution, and then Jack, you double it. Now it's yearly. All right. Right. That would be the. You think for a second that if they put the Israel question in the background, that suddenly Anna and Candace and I would suddenly, let bygones be bygones, and we get about solving real problems. That's what, Lionel over here is saying.
Covering up from minors being trafficked.
You've helped Trump get elected, you fucking asshole. Stop it. It's fucking embarrassing. Both of you supported Trump. Trump was Epstein's wingman for 26 plus years. There is no evidence he ever kicked him out of fucking Mar-a-Lago. He was never a member. He could come and go as he pleased. He got fucking women from the spa delivered to his house. Trump had underage girls working in his spa. Why the fuck do you think? What in the world makes you think he would ever solve this problem? What do you mean?
Globally around the world by elites into
elites. Shit, this asshole has no idea how trailer parks work, does she?
Egyptian temples designed after an Egyptian temple on a Caribbean island, and they're trying to gaslight us about that. And these people are in control of our countries. And so at that moment, if you can't go, hey, we can scrap about this other topic later, but we need to confront this satanic evil that's taking.
Sorry, unless you can get Trump impeached, this is all a lie. You don't give a fuck about this. Again, everybody's trying to slice off what's left of InfoWars. These are all people feeding at the InfoWars carcass. She's just like the mean girl, Alex Jones. That's what this is now. Tucker's the dweeb, Alex Jones. Russell Brand is the hippie, Alex Jones. Jesus Jones, right? That's all they're doing. They're just fucking carving off a chunk of it for themselves because that audience is resilient and paranoia pilled. And the great thing about it, the best thing about it, is you never have to solve shit. The longer it's a problem, the better. Now, I know I'm over time, but we have to address this because look who came out of the woodwork after the Tucker interview. Look who Peanut Butter Dickhead had on his show. It's John Paul Isaac. All right. They want to rewrite history. Hunter's laptop repairman accuses Tucker of running cover. You gotta love it.
What was your reaction when you saw this exchange about...
Ow, you really going to say saw to him?
The laptop. How did you, the person that was involved in this story, how did you react to the story?
Well, I for the last 6 months, actually, I think longer, I've been listening to Hunter try to rewrite his history. So I think that aspect...
No. He's trying to correct your fiction.
That's comical because every lie that's come out of Hunter's mouth has actually been proven in court to be a lie by his father's own DOJ. Like Exhibit 6 was the timeline for the laptop, and it clearly states that I sent him an email. I called him. He called me back. He came back to the shop.
Nope.
The serial number of his laptop that he signed for was the same serial number that was on the subpoena. So it's ridiculous that he's trying.
Oh, a liberal dance going live? Okay.
To rewrite history, unless he owes somebody a lot of money that's also producing a documentary that wants a certain narrative to be pushed. And that's what I think's happened.
So a documentary, you say?
Who is that? Who is the person doing a documentary?
Well, Hunter owes Kevin Morris a lot of money, and every time Hunter made a public appearance in the past 4 years, he's always had Kevin Morris and his camera crew around. So we're waiting patiently for this documentary to come out, and I just assumed the last 8 months have been Hunter doing Kevin Morris's PR work, basically.
What is the
and why would you assume that?
Exact amount that he owes Kevin Morris for the documentary? Do you know?
Well, Kevin Morris footed his bill during the time he was in California. So I heard it was up to $4.2 million, but I haven't been keeping track of Hunter's finances.
Okay, and so when you saw this, what was your reaction with the way Tucker pushed back or the lack of pushback on the story? Knowing Tucker has access to you, he can call you, he had the conversation with you, and Tucker just a few years ago was one of the guys that said this is the biggest story that took place, and so.
Yeah, so that was what I pointed out when we watched the Tucker interview.
His position changed. Did you, one, what are your thoughts about the way Tucker reacted to him? And number two, did Tucker's camp at all reach out to you to get a reaction to the interview?
So I'm not really too surprised at Tucker's reaction.
What the fuck is that seat in the back? Is that a flight simulator that he made himself? Or is that... Where is he? I get the Mac poster. I guess that's in line with the brand. But the shelves are completely empty except for whatever that black box is. Is that his bagpipe kit? My bagpipe kit is downstairs about that size. And then the red velvet couch. What is this? It reminds me of the sex contraption that George Clooney made in Burn After Reading.
So I was introduced to Tucker on October 16th. And I had a lengthy text message with him.
This is October 16th of what, 2020 or October 16th of what year? 2020. Okay, got it.
2 days after the New York Post broke the story, I was introduced to Tucker in a chat, text message, and we texted back and forth. He asked me a lot of questions about what the FBI was asking me and if he knew what they were looking into and what they had found. And then that was it. The next time I talked to Tucker Carlson was May 4th of 2022. And that told me that he had absolutely zero interest in confronting me about the laptop.
Wow.
What happened after our conversation?
Could it possibly be that he read your account and he saw your interviews and he looked at the very same evidence you were holding up and went, "Oh, I see. This is bullshit. If I talk about this, I can continue to hang this around Hunter Biden's neck. If I bring you in and interview you, people are going to know you're full of shit."
The 16th. I was also introduced with a gentleman named Yakov Applebaum.
Of course you were.
On the 17th, by the same guy that introduced me to Tucker Carlson. And
wow. Peanut Butter Dickhead is now doing like those, if you get bored by this topic, we're moving to this in a second. If you get bored by this one, we're moving to this one in a second. I think Breaking Points does this across the bottom of the screen. This is because they're having trouble with audience retention.
And this gentleman that introduced me was Larry Johnson, who's a former CIA analyst, a friend of my father, who was kind of helping me navigate the...
Sorry, run that by us again. Sorry.
And and this gentleman that introduced me was Larry Johnson.
Larry Johnson. Who's Larry Johnson?
Who's a former CIA analyst, a friend of my father, who was kind of helping me navigate this quagmire I found myself in.
You don't say. Navigate that quagmire with a former CIA guy? Just kind of randomly shows up? When did you guys hook up?
And so Yakov worked for Larry as his tech guy. So Larry sent Yakov to my house to collect the laptop, the data, to analyze and verify it.
Whoa! Oh, you mean the one that you allegedly gave to the FBI?
Then collected some criminality off of it to mail to Tucker's producer, which...
Collected some criminality off of it to mail to Tucker's producer.
Tucker or it says the UPS lost on, I think it was the 27th of October, which that just threw up red flags of me, because then to have Tucker not even want me to talk about the laptop on his show for a year and a half.
That's weird.
Told me that, and then when I found out that Tucker was in the laptop, it kind of all made sense. So what I feel like Tucker's doing right now is I think he's kind of running cover for his complacency in covering the laptop. I mean, he beat his sabers and talked to.
But sorry, running cover for his complacency? Wouldn't you dive further in if you felt you were complacent in not pushing the laptop far enough?
About accountability, and he brought up the laptop a lot, but I mean, it took him a year and a half to have me on the show, and I was told if I talked about anything other than what he wanted to talk about, I would never be invited back.
Who said?
And this is the first time you're bringing this up? Again, it's Tucker Carlson, so that wouldn't surprise me at all. But maybe you rethink this into like who you're in bed with. You're being handled by a CIA guy who hooks you up with Rudy Giuliani's lawyer, who also gets you on and helps you navigate being on Tucker. And Tucker narrowly chooses what he'll allow you to talk about and what he won't.
That to you, the producers?
Tucker's producer.
Interesting.
Yeah, I think all of them work for AOC now.
So Tucker's.
I've had Tucker flagged as like complacent with covering up the laptop from.
Look out.
Since basically the 16th of October.
2020, 6 years
ago. Asked me a lot of questions, and then that was it. I didn't hear a squeak out of him.
What's your speculation? You said he's in the laptop. In what way is he in the laptop? Is it an email exchange?
Yeah, he was friends with Hunter. He was neighbors. I think he was asking for Hunter to get his kid into Georgetown, and then I think the wife had some plans. I know he was in the laptop. I don't care. It's DC. Plus, I mean, people forget Tucker was in CNN for a while. I mean,
he was a Democrat.
Yeah,
he's a Democrat. When was Tucker a fucking Democrat? Are you high?
An opportunist. So
yeah, I think that exchange is, to me, it's nothing. It's if you guys are communicating at that time, you're in DC. I totally get it. families talk to one another, and sometimes there is
like that. This is the weird part. Somebody just wrote it like, so he still has the his friend. This is after supposedly the FBI guys came and picked up the laptop. He's still got it, and they were able to get some, quote, criminality off of it and mail it to Tucker Carlson. And Tucker Carlson lost it in the mail or never received it and didn't ask for another copy or wouldn't allow you to bring it up because it was lost in the mail. Why?
Acting and what we do on TV, and then you see some of these guys behind closed doors that they're friends with all of them. So it wasn't that it was anything malicious that it was in the laptop. It's just purely that there was proof that they're communicating and they're friends.
Ugh. Yeah, I think inviting to each other's birthday parties, that kind of stuff.
Got it. So the last time you spoke to him was May 4th of 2022. The first time you did was October 16th of 2020, 4 days before the New York Post story came up. And then immediately, a few hours later, Twitter took it down. Okay, so in this case, when you're hearing the exchange between the two of them, the market looking at this, knowing all of
the market,
this was documented, and Tucker knows this stuff. And
oh, awesome, Dorothy! Thank you for getting a shirt.
Hunter knows this stuff. Why wouldn't Tucker push back? Why wouldn't he push back on this?
Why didn't Sean Ryan push back? Why?
Oh my God, they're all co-opted. I'm going to go with. It's got to be Mossad, right? At this point, isn't that everything? I'm kidding.
And Candace Owens pushed back. Why hasn't any interview Tucker done why has Tucker refused to do interviews?
First of all, wait. The idea that these folks, quote, didn't push back when they were doing nothing but pushing him over for years, and it didn't amount to shit. The reason they're not pushing back is because they were wrong. They bought your bullshit. You're in trouble now. This is the cleanup interview.
Where he knows that there's going to be pushback. So I think, again, I think Kevin Morris is going to get his money back. He's produced Broadway productions. He's produced.
Yeah, he's going to do Hunter Biden's Laptop, the musical. Yep. And I think Josh Hawley will be playing Hunter's penis.
Documentaries before. I think he's put a lot of money into Hunter, and I think he wants to recoup that money. So I think a lot of what we're seeing right now is opportunities for people like Tucker to insert Israel into the mix, which again, he knows who Yakov is. He knows he's not an Israeli asset. So why Tucker wanted to pander to his audience about Israelis and the link and the tie, that's on Tucker. But I don't, it just seems awfully.
Oh, you're starting to find out that these right-wing media types are opportunists and are trying to shoehorn it.
Peculiar for people to sacrifice their credibility.
Yeah, who does have the laptop in the chat right now?
At this level, knowing the facts and knowing the detail and knowing that Hunter's own father's DOJ documented everything. And, but they're usually the only reason why people would do these things is for money. So that's the only thing I can.
Yeah, it's funny.
Okay, first of all, no. If someone has attacked your good name and has painted you, saying shit like they found some criminality on it and mailed it to somebody else, that's why you go on this kind of a tour. If you're a known entity and people recognize you in public, one of the reasons you would go on to, and do interviews is to push back on that. And money wouldn't be the primary reason. Just getting your name back from assholes like this would be the reasoning. I don't know why and the fact that this dude thinks money is the primary motivator makes this stink a little bit more. I don't think this dude got paid for his part in this. I think he's a dupe.
The original documented loan to Biden was $6.5 million. The current reported debt is $5+ million.
I just paid him back some.
And, they're going back and forth. There was also an unusual transaction involving Hunter's artwork. Morris purchased art in a deal that the congressional investigators calculated reduced Hunter's debt to Morris by $525,000. And this is stuff that's out there. This is judiciary.house.gov. So it's not like this is it.
Sorry. He purchased the art. He owes him $6 million. He purchases the art, and suddenly Hunter only owes him $5.5 million, meaning that, or 5.6 something, which means he paid 100 some odd thousand in theory, and the profit on those paintings, because they're a piece of history and because of the notoriety of Hunter Biden and all the stuff that goes with it, his art will sell worldwide. Like, holy shit, that's a Hunter Biden original. Give me one of those. There are people who will buy those for $1 million just to shelve them, just to have them and go, yeah, I can loan this to the Smithsonian and take, $100,000 off my taxes. That
blogger writing this that's out there. But Vinny, when you see this, what questions do you have for John Paul?
So, hey, John, it's Vinny. Good to see you again. So, John, I have two things. Because they keep saying, oh, he's blind, he doesn't know, he doesn't see. I have two things. So that day, John, when Hunter walked in, and you said, very intoxicated.
And your cameras weren't working.
It smelled like alcohol, trouble speaking, balancing, nearly dropped the laptop on the counter. One of them was liquid damage, so you couldn't get anything out of it, probably because he was drinking and doing whatever the hell.
Yes, it was soaked in brandy. Yeah.
He does on it. And then you saw the Beau Biden Foundation sticker. So you asked him who he was, and he paused and said, Hunter. And then you're like, okay, last name, Biden. They want us to believe that this was some Mossad agent because they knew you were partially blind. They came in to set all this up. So
No, I think it was Don Jr. actually.
Just very, very briefly, John, could you recall that moment,
and why your cameras were all off that day?
The interaction with him, and as if you don't know what his voice is. And then my second part, John, is now all these years, you couldn't talk about certain things on these laptops because of lawsuits. Now that they're all gone and everything's said and done.
Guess what? There's going to be some brand new lawsuits.
What's the one thing that you've been dying to tell everybody that you saw that you couldn't tell us?
Or more, kind of saw?
Last time that's like, oh my God, so blatantly obvious, and one of the reasons he got a pardon.
Wow. Well, let's start with the last one. So, I've always had a problem with the inappropriate relationship with Hunter's niece, his dead brother's kid. It's the reason why the gun ended up in the trash can in the first place. That behavior.
It was in a dumpster, but away from the house. There wasn't like a gun in a trash can in the house. It was thrown in a dumpster. There's no chance that an underage child wanders to a shopping mall or wherever the fuck that was and climbs into the dumpster and gets it. That sounds very different than there was a gun in a trash can. But okay.
Shocked me. What shocked me even more was Jim Biden and Joe Biden and basically the family, the patriarchy, trying to do their best to come up with ways to silence the mother, to we'll shove it down her throat was, I think, one of the quotes that I read when they were going to describe her drug use to kind of combat, like they were going to punish her for Hunter's.
Sorry. So I'm not familiar with the shove it down her throat email/text or whatever that was supposedly Joe and Jim talking about the drug use of Hunter's ex-wife that threw the gun in the dumpster, his gun or whatever. But I'm gonna need some more specifics, which don't exist.
Behavior revolving around an underage niece, and I thought that was probably the most horrible thing that.
Whoa! Hold on. His behavior around an underage niece. So that the mom was complaining about the gun that ended up in the dumpster that's the trash can now. And they were going to shove her drug use down her throat to keep her quiet about what behavior? What are you talking about? Because there is no behavior in that, like anywhere other than like the idea that he was an addict while he was around, not that he was doing drugs in front of her or with her or any of that stuff. Like, this is just a farce.
A family could do to itself.
And just really quick, John, what the relationship, was it just drug use or was there something nefarious happening between those two? That you saw.
That you saw.
It looked like Hunter was taking advantage of a young lady that kind of saw in Hunter a better man, probably a crush. So there was a lot of inappropriate. I believe the mother was upset because Hunter was smoking crack naked in front of her during chat messages or messages. Or iChat, I think it was iChat.
Okay.
But it's that's a messed up family, and
no, that's like playing recordings of it in front of the daughter is what the mother did. That's what he's talking about. She's looking at stuff that she filmed of Hunter, and that they were chatting, and she played it. That was why they were upset. I remember this part now.
And the depths that they would go to protect their own. From their own, it's just disgusting.
Yeah, well, remember in Ashley Biden's, what was it, her diary that she left behind at an Airbnb?
Let me guess, which she totally did, that she remembers showering as a child with her dad, and it was totally inappropriate because that's what, and again, age-wise, I mean, there's all kinds of wrapped up stuff in there where people are like, I don't know why you wouldn't be a pedophile. It seems wonderful. Whereas everybody else is like, that's gross. That's not where I went immediately, but I can see why you would.
She said some stuff about her father allegedly showering with her at probably at inappropriate ages.
Probably.
So then.
Sorry, what's an inappropriate age? After puberty? In her 20s? What are you talking about?
Just really fast, the day that he walked in, smelling like alcohol, dropping it off. Can you just very, very briefly bring that up again? Because they're acting as if you don't know what you're talking about and you couldn't see anything.
All right. So I've never, up until he walked in the shop, I absolutely had no interest in knowing what Hunter Biden looked like. So I had no idea who this guy was. The check-in process at my shop is I collect customer information. The first question is, can you give me your first name and your last name? Mm-hmm. It's simple. So yes, I am visually impaired. I cannot drive. And yes, I have problems seeing past 5 to 8 feet. without visual aids.
Which you were not wearing that day.
Am I blind? Am I unable to see who I'm talking to or recognize a person when they come in, or recognize a person that's starring in their homemade porn is the same guy that dropped off the laptop? Or how about this for all the people that question my eyesight and my ability to see? I have pretty good hearing. So
I may be blind, but I have acute hearing. I don't care about your jewelry cloth eyes.
You know, the high-pitched, entitled voice of Hunter Biden rings.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
In my ears every time I hear it. And I recognize that voice everywhere. So, you know,
yeah, that's not how this works at all.
I'd say it's all bullshit. They should see me at the range.
Yeah. Adam, final question.
John Paul, everyone wants to focus on Hunter, but I want to focus on you for a second. The way I look at this is everyone has their own incentives or their motivations. So break this down to first principles for me. You've been in the limelight for 6 years. What is your motivation for any of this? Why are you involved in this story other than him bringing you this laptop? How have you benefited?
I never wanted to be involved with this story. I'm actually surprised that here I am nearly 6 years later, and I'm still having to defend the authenticity, the legitimacy, the chain of command, the origin.
There was none. Again, that's why everything on it is inadmissible in court, because you and Rudy Giuliani's lapdog dude and the guy that was taking the copies around who went to Miranda Devine with it and all that stuff, that were so sloppy in your handling of it that even if the FBI wanted to charge him off of something that was in there, if they could find something, they couldn't, because you guys fucked it up. And guess what? You were meant to.
This laptop, and I'm doing it because people want to rewrite history for a reason. And
yeah, and if you're caught in that lie, you would be liable for, massive slander. So that would be the motivation. It's a monetary motivation if you don't want to pay what you'd be sued over, right? If you don't want to lose your business or the money that Hunter Biden or any of the other people involved could get from you. That sounds like a financial motivation, right?
And this, I just don't feel like I should let this stand. I was hoping that in the 4 years that I was involved in lawfare to try to hold people accountable, that the Congress and other people would kind of join me and get my back. And unfortunately, I was left on my own. So after 4 years of law.
Yeah, because they read all of the evidence and they read your book and they watched your interviews. That's why.
I'm free to leave Delaware now, so I'm trying to desperately get out of Delaware before anything bad.
Have you enriched yourself? Have you gotten any benefits from any of this?
No, I lost my business.
Well, yeah, I don't know anybody who would take their laptop to a repairman who goes through your hard drive if he doesn't like the stickers on the outside. Let's just start there. You fucking nuts. Run back to the point where this allegedly, and again, it's a fabrication bullshit, but run back to the part where you were looking through his stuff and you recognized the Beau Biden sticker on it. And you're like, I don't like Hunter Biden and his voice irritates me. And I think his dad's a crook. So I'm going to start going through his private files, make a copy of his own shit and keep it for myself. And then hand it to Rudy Giuliani's lawyer through a CIA guy I know. Get the fuck out of here.
Destitute. I have to sell my home because I can't afford to live here. I was swatted 2 years ago. The state of Delaware has tried to disarm me. I don't like leaving my house because every time I interact with anybody outside, it usually goes poorly. So this has not gone well.
Welcome to Sucks to Be You. Is the problem here the distance between fa and faux?
For me, but I'm not going to give up because the people that seem to want to push a fake narrative are also just seem to be profiting greatly off of this. And
okay, again, Hunter Biden's the one that's pushing back on this because you made up a bunch of shit about him that turned out not to be true. Let's just start there. And this illusion that you found this shit is garbage. And if you have anybody to blame for, even if you thought what happened in your shop was real, and you took what you took, you gave it to Rudy Giuliani. He added it to other stuff that he bought in Ukraine. Let's just give you the full benefit of the doubt. And then he started shopping it around, calling it that, and then roped you into it. This is not Hunter Biden's fault that he's trying to clear his name. He's copying to everything that in the laptop hard drive that Rudy Giuliani was shopping around that makes him look bad and all this stuff. But there are no criminal activities in there other than his drug use. And again, you can't actually, this might shock people, but you cannot arrest someone for like if you find a video of them smoking pot or doing coke or doing something illegal, unless it's non-consensual sex or sex with a minor or something like that. But doing a controlled substance and having video of it will never be admissible in court as proof unless you have a blood test to show that it was in their system at the same time that that window of that video was taken. They filmed themselves doing cocaine, and then you ran a blood test and they had coke in their system. Like an hour later or something like that. And you were able to tell, Your Honor, here's actually, he filmed himself snorting the cocaine and we found it in his blood. Like that you could do. But if you find something from a year ago, 6 months ago, 3 months ago of somebody allegedly doing drugs, I got news for you. You cannot arrest somebody for on camera smoking something you think is crack. If you can't prove it's crack, even if they say it's crack, you could, their attorney would go, Your Honor, my client was an addict. We can't even prove that in this video he's not smoking Parmesan cheese. That's how this works. That's how this will always. And this is, by the way, this is how this should work. I'm not interested in anybody getting busted for smoking tobacco through a bong and going, well, it looks like pot to me. Look like pot to you, Jim? Throw him in fucking jail.
I just think that's wrong to profit off of my suffering and the suffering of anybody else that was involved in this thing.
Fuck you. What suffering? You attempted to profiteer from it. You sold a book. You contacted Rudy Giuliani to help Donald Trump by giving the private information. And this is just taking you at your word that you actually believe this was Hunter Biden's private information. By giving stuff that, by the way, showed no criminality. Not with the kid, not with any of that stuff. None of that. None, like his relationship and how you read those text messages back and forth, how you interpreted this family during a divorce, any of the ugliness back and forth. None of it plays out as criminality. None of it eliminates that he had decent and still has decent ongoing relationship with all of his kids and his family. None of it. So you inserted yourself, and then you tried to profit off of it, and you thought you would benefit the incoming president, and that fucker hung you out to dry.
Well, if the audience is watching the same thing I'm seeing, you seem very sincere.
And Hunter doesn't? Fuck you.
On who you are. And also, the first time I had you on, you seem very sincere. Why would you benefit from this? That's actually a good question to ask.
Because he was politically motivated in the beginning. He was financially motivated through his book and his attachment to being part of the winning team. And now he's financially motivated by the fact that he might get sued for lying. How about that?
So, John Paul, appreciate you for making the time for jumping on and just kind of giving you a perspective. And we wish you nothing but the very best. Again, thank you for your time.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Anytime.
Cheers.
Thank you. It's so interesting to me.
Isn't it?
That you try to do this, the motives behind. Remember, in every relationship, if you ever want to size up an enemy, an ally, a friend, somebody you want to get married, remember the 5 things. Concerns. What are your concerns?
Well, my concern would be that the witness has no corroborating videotape. The signature isn't Hunter Biden's signature. The stuff on there grew from 215 gigabytes or whatever, 40% of 215 gigabytes to well over 600 gigabytes by the time Rudy Giuliani had it. There is zero metadata. It's a forensic nightmare. They couldn't track it. He threw away 2 of the other laptops. They just fucking vanished. And then he gave one to the FBI, which is not in their possession. Never was given back to him. There's no receipt for him getting his laptop back. The receipt for the laptop that he received back was the one that his attorneys handed over for the tax case. So that's the beginning of my concerns. And again, I'm also concerned by the idea, like on a conspiratorial level, that Hunter Biden drunkenly stumbles in with 3 soaking wet laptops and drops them off at the only Mac repair guy in Delaware who's friends with Rudy Giuliani's lawyer.
With that relationship. Number 2, what are your assumptions?
My assumptions is that anyone who can't see 6 inches past their face without extraordinary glasses and wasn't wearing them that day by his own admission couldn't tell the difference between Don Jr. and Hunter Biden when they both have a beard.
Motives. What are the fears?
The motives are political, then financial, then financial.
What are your asks? What's Tucker's motive with this? What is the motive?
I have one angle.
We know what Hunter's motive is. We get that. I mean, they need content. They need content to rebrand, and then Hunter's going to come out and say, here's what we're doing. But what's Tucker's motive with this?
So I love...
Sorry, they need content to rebrand. It's an interesting projection on behalf of Peanut Butter Dickhead of what's going on here. Couldn't possibly be that somebody actually wants to clear their name for real because it's a Democrat. If it was Trump, if it was Eric, if it was Don Jr., they would obviously be doing this just because they want to set the record straight, right? But because it's Hunter, it's content.
You asked that. So yesterday, Pat, Chuck Ross, who used to work at Daily Caller, who I think Tucker co-owned or one of his
No, he
companies.
did. Him and Neil Patel, yes.
He says that when the Hunter laptop story broke, he was working there, 2020, the reporters there found emails showing Tucker and Hunter knew each other, just like he's saying personally. Tucker asked Hunter to write a recommendation to get his son Buckley into Georgetown. So the reporters thought, okay, this is perfect. The media's claiming the laptop emails could be fake, and Tucker could personally confirm.
No, they're not claiming the emails are fake. They're claiming that the forensic data for all of the documents as a whole cannot be attributed to Hunter Biden. So some of them, it only works if some of it's real. You mix real shit with fake shit, with incendiary shit, or half shit where you just take out, there's 10 emails, you take out 8 of them, you only have 2 in there. The beginning and the end without the context looks like something shady's going on. You can remove sentences, you can remove entire paragraphs, you can remove entire emails. You fuck up the metadata so that it doesn't line up. Then when they actually investigate it, which is what happened, they go and look at his lawyers turn over his real laptop, his actual laptop, and when they look at the entire exchange, they're like, oh fuck, there's no there there. The Chinese natural gas purchase being the biggest one, the $5 million. They tracked the shit out of that one. And that was the whole thing was like a down payment on a $50 million deal that this Chinese company, CEFC, was going to buy a natural gas plant in the United States. Hunter and his partners were saying, if you're going to do it, you have to set up a subsidiary in the United States that is under SEC. And they didn't do it. The Chinese wouldn't do it because they wanted it to be run out of Hong Kong or out of Shanghai, really. So they wanted it to be a Chinese-run company, but not under American rules. And for Hunter and them go, if we're going to do this deal, that's a non-starter. So the deal died and they divvied up the $5 million. That's how it happened. That's exactly how that deal happened. The natural gas plant that was going to be sold, the rule was they had to set up a subsidiary in the United States to buy it. They weren't going to do it. Deal fell apart. The sorry I wasted your time 5% or whatever it was, 1% was divided amongst the partners. Yeah, crazy insane alien. We went through this shit at the time. That's why they didn't get $50 million, because they refused to do a deal with the company unless they made an American subsidiary under SEC rules. And instead of going, oh, good for Hunter, man. They promised they would do this. He was trying to get them to set up a company inside the United States, run it here under our rules. They refused to do it. Deal dies.
That, his emails with Hunter were real. But according to Ross, Tucker wanted no part of it and allegedly got pissed off, Pat, saying a story about it would be attack on his family. Like basically me and Tucker are like this. They go way back.
And who is this person?
Chuck Ross.
Is this the email exchange or is this something else?
Of course, getting on the plane now, but
also, Chuck Ross was in business with Tucker for years. Sorry, was this the last straw? Obviously not. They kept working together for years after that. Who gives a fuck what a guy who would work with somebody like Tucker thought, who went their separate ways when Tucker started fucking demons at truck stops?
Ask Susie to send.
No, this is Tucker asking in 2014, specifically asking Hunter to help him with his son Buckley get into Georgetown. And you see it's clear. It's not one line, Pat. It's, hey, want to do this. Buddy. Oh, hey, buddy, I will need Hunter back to Tucker. CV. Hey, buddy, I need Buckley's CV, curriculum vitae, his resume. If you have one handy, thanks. Hunter, I can't thank you. Tucker responds, Hunter, I can't thank you enough for writing a letter to Georgetown on Buckley's behalf. So nice of you. I know it'll help. Hope you're great and we can get dinner soon.
Yeah. Again, Hunter Biden is, all addiction aside, all his, when he went, his brother dies and he, like his crack addiction spikes and all that kind of stuff. Everything else about him is a decent fucking guy by and large. And certainly nicer than Tucker Carlson. You ever heard that dude talk about his fucking kids?
Pat, it's all complacency and he's trying to cover his butt. Because even the FBI, they just had released documents, Operation Round River from December 2019, that the FBI had damning information. Joe Biden, Hunter, Burisma, corruption in Ukraine, and the new material that was released, that 14 informants were giving them all this information, and the FBI was like, no, this is Russian information, Pat. They're all...
Because it was.
Covering their butts.
No, it actually was Russian disinformation. They can tell the difference. Sorry, in 2019, who the fuck was president?
We all know what Hunter is. Like this whole...
All right, what is he? What is he? You got a cross around your neck. What is he?
Parading around.
My issue is not Hunter. I know who Hunter is.
Yeah.
And by the way, I actually think he's funny as hell. He's good on social media. He's doing all that stuff. And he's trying to rebrand himself. I get that.
Yeah.
I get why you would want to do that because he's still young. I don't know how old he is. Probably in his 50s or early 60s. I don't know how old he is. So he's trying to get back in the limelight. And he's been around the block, so he knows how to communicate. So I get that part. The dirt, the stuff that he did.
Yeah.
By the way, the reports is that he sexually inappropriate behavior with his niece.
That's
is what it is. Yeah. So,
dude.
No, it isn't.
But to me, it's more about what's Tucker's motive? What is he doing? Where does he want to be? Who is his, what's...
Dude, what if somebody talked shit like that to the point where the entire country was after you and calling you a crack addict and doing all this kind of shit, and they were trying to ruin your parents because of your behavior, and they went after your fucking family, and you couldn't go... What do you mean, what's the motivation?
His loyalty to? What is he trying to figure out? That's the part I don't know.
And by the way, he's wearing a cross. I will call it a crucifix when he lives up to its standard.
And we will never know because that's only in the man's mind what he's doing. All you can do is judge the person's behavior and see what it's leading to. And this right here is he dropped the ball on this because you can't have somebody like that come to you, say you're a Republican, say you're a conservative, and then change your position. Either leave the party and just say I'm a Democrat. Yeah. Leave the party and go do something else. Go maybe create a third party and give your position, which is kind of doing right now.
Yeah. But so Tucker, I think he mixed Hunter and Tucker.
But some of this behavior is very weird.
Yeah, the thing I'll say about this is I don't.
Oh my God, these guys are so fucking boring.
I think we fully appreciate or genuinely understand how elite and insider Hunter Biden and Tucker Carlson are.
Oh my God. What are you, jealous? Yeah, they're everywhere, man. They're the thread that holds the whole fucking Illuminati together. Fuck are you talking about? Now do Don and Eric. Now do Ivanka and fucking Jared.
I mean, Tucker's kind of parading out there with his tobacco and his flannels as he's an American everyman. I like to hunt and fish. Buddy, your dad was allegedly CIA. Hunter's dad has been in political landscape for 50 years.
The big guy.
10% for the big guy. You need a favor to get your son into college. He didn't earn it. There's no merit there. You send a little email, track, show the email right here. Can you do me a favor? The favor's done. So to me, this whole masquerading as this populist.
Okay, simmer the fuck down. Like amongst PDB, like Peanut Butter Dickhead and his crowd, if your kid's trying to get into an elite university like Georgetown or Harvard or Yale or whatever, you collect like letters of oh my to hand in with their CV. They do it all the time. I know him to be a great kid, and I know him to be studious and important, and I would, I would recommend him getting hired after he graduates to this law firm and that thing, and and the president's son doing that would absolutely help him get in office. And if Peanut Butter Dickhead was trying to get into Harvard and he knew Hunter Biden, he'd ask for the same fucking letter. And it's not because there's this like he's skull and fucking bones. Look, I understand you can be annoyed a little bit at the inside baseball part of politics and finance. Totally fine. But we also don't have to be fucking naive at its existence across a myriad of areas. Like, it's, for fuck's sake, look at Bernie Sanders' wife's work at the college in Vermont that she works at or whatever. Like, of course there's relationships that help people get in there and help the place raise money because her husband is who he is and shit like that. He's not even in this class of things. It's just how relationships work in these situations. And the funny thing is, I think the hardest part is that they can't understand why it would be a plus.
You're an elitist. You've been...
Jesus Christ, you're an elitist. He was fine. This is the thing. You were okay with him being an elitist until he turned on Trump, and for reasons that make you look like an asshole. Again, elitism by people who were born with a silver spoon up their ass like Tucker Carlson, you kind of expect. And it's awful and unnecessary and certainly not an example of quality. But you know what's worse? Star fuckers who will chase that kind of clout until it no longer serves them. Until they either don't get the benefit they were hoping for from that person and they run away with sour grapes, or that person turns around and is selling to a different group and handing out their elite connective power to that group instead of yours. What a dickhead.
Been on the inside of everything.
Yeah, and you didn't have a fucking problem with it until he turned on Trump. You can't criticize the nature of the man himself all of a sudden. Oh my God, what an elitist insider. Can you believe this second generation rich kid? It's pathetic how they live. P.S. Don Jr., Eric, Donald Trump, who is a second generation rich kid himself.
For 30, 40, 50 years, and now you want to kind of play dumb. That's the issue that I have.
Yeah, Tom, I'll give you the final words. What are you thinking? How are you processing this?
Also, he's, for the record, he's not playing dumb. He had Hunter on, admitted that he was in there, talked about how he was being shopped this stuff by Israelis.
So there's a couple things that you could look at, because if you go to the concerns, motivation, assumptions, fears, and ask. So,
oh my God, there's got to be a book they're selling. Is that what they're bringing up with this dipshittery?
What could be some motivations for Tucker? If there's a real documentary coming, and
okay, how much money do you think a Hunter Biden documentary is going to make? Just enough to pay off the dude who lent him the money to fight his court case?
And Hunter is saying, by the way, Hunter is everywhere. There's a Wall Street Journal report, I think, that said, Hunter is everywhere. What's he up to? I think it was a journal yesterday. And so everybody's asking that question. Well, guess what? if he's got a guy he owns money to and that guy wants to film a documentary, then he needs footage and everything. That makes sense to me. Howard Tucker.
Yeah, but the footage, wouldn't you want that exclusive? I mean, talk about supply and demand. What good is, if you're doing a 2-hour interview with Tucker, what is this dude going to do? Put a documentary together that's just clips from these interviews? I can do that on my show for fucking free.
Figuring that, it's like you got to rewrite history. You got to spin. AOC is spinning. Everybody's spinning on their positions, and I feel.
Oh, really? Really? Are you again jealous because Trump can't spin right now? Just sucks.
Like Tucker's trying to spin and his prior position or trying to take something, and the internet's not letting him do it. People are putting things side by side. Hey, 3 years ago you said this. Now you're saying this. You know, I'm not trying to be a critic here. I'm just looking at.
Oh, you're not?
Hunter or Tucker?
On Tucker. You know, it's just.
Yeah, he's had a turnaround. That's what he's selling. And again, this has nothing to do, in my estimation, with him being a changed man, but the fact that Trump fucked up so bad that everybody is firing the retro rockets to try and not get sucked into the black hole that is his future.
Like, okay, you know, you've gone one way, you got another. So it seems like you're trying to brand and position.
Too much flip-flopping.
And you're in there with.
Also, it's not flip-flopping if it's new information, stupid. What do you want? Points for sticking with the loser in this situation, asshole? Keep at it. I guess maybe that, you know, in for a penny, in for a pounding. Maybe that's where they're going. I gotta let you guys go. I went way over, and I gotta go. And I have to eat something, and I'm still doing unpacking. I got so much. Jesus Christ, the unpacking. You know what I found? Can I show you something real quick? I got this light over here. Can I show you something real quick? This is cool. They're all going to go up on my shelf. This isn't even all of them. This is my collection of Mad Magazine books that I've had forever. It's time for. Oh, be quiet. Mad Scramble, Al Jaffe Bombs Again, the Mad Jumble book, Explosive Mad, Spy versus Spy. I mean, come on. Madvertising. I've collected a bunch of these over, you know, over my many years alive, and some of them I've had since I was a kid. One of them in particular, I'm a big Don Martin fan. Hold on, this is the Al Jaffe one. There's the other Madvertising. I have 2 copies of that from the original one. Yeah. There you go. This one I lost the cover for, but this is like Mad, the Guide to Protesting, Mad Mortality, Madvertising again. Don Martin Forges Ahead. This one right here. So good. And then Abominable Snowmad. And then, yeah. So these are my Mad Magazine. Now they will have a proper shelf that I get to put them on, that I can occasionally, when I do my morning reading, that I will grab one of these and flip through them for nostalgia and comedy's sake. All right. Appreciate you guys. I'll let you go. Thank you guys for sticking around. Sorry. Enjoy Liberal Dan. We'll jump over to him. Take care of yourselves and take care of somebody else. I swear I gotta go. This is yeah.
If they ask, I forgot it.
This is what happens when I get wound up and I do a book report at the beginning of the show, isn't it? Son of a bitch.
Black bar from my past, can't track this. Screenshots cropped out, can't catch this. If it looks too wild on the axis, highlight, right click, boom, redact this. Redact this. Blood and face, can't fact check the madness. Throwing out page from the bad habits atlas. If the story get messy in the ad-libs, highlight, right click, boom, redact this. I was young, I was dumb, I was scrolling. Type way too much, hit send, heart swollen. Now I keep receipts like a lawyer with a folder, but anything risky get hit with the toner. Whole group chat. Got tails, I ain't claim. If my name pop up, that's a typo, blame. Who's that in the pic? Man, that ain't go strange. That's a random stranger with a very close face. On the stand of my friends, I plead don't recall. If they ask for the tape, it's a missing file. If they pull up the clip, that's deep fake style. If they show me the proof, I just smile like redacted. Black ball from my past, can't track this. Screenshots cropped out, can't catch this. If it looks too wild on the axis, highlight, right click, boom, redacted. Redact this. Blur that face, can't fact check the madness. Torn out page from the bad habits atlas. If the story get messy in the ad-libs, highlight, right click, boom, yeah, redacted. If it hit too close, that's a rumor I heard. If the dateline match, that's a clerical error. If the outfit match, that's a popular shirt. If the tattoo match, that's a stock photo search. I'm allergic to question, coughing the light. I just added the ending, soften the bite. Take the worst 3 parts of the night, then slice like fun was had and we were not. Every X got a chapter I seal. Every text got a gap in the reel. I ain't lying, I'm curating the reveal. Just trimming little bits of the raw, real deal. If you saw, you didn't. If you know, you didn't. If you talk, I'm clipping. If they ask, we glitching. Swipe that name out, crop that frame out. If it made me look foul, delete then fade out. Black ball from my past, can't track this. Screenshots cropped out, can't catch this. If it looks too wild on the axis, highlight, right click, boom, redact this. Redact this. Blur that face, can't fact check the madness. Torn out page from the bad habits atlas. If the story get messy in the ad-libs, highlight, right click, boom, redact this.